Okay, welcome everybody to the Newport School Board meeting. Thank you. It's March 24th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Rhonda?
Callum King here.
Bill Wilkinson
Bill
here.
Wilkinson here. Steve?
Steve Morris here.
Bert?
Bert Spalding Sr. here.
And Jenna Darling here. We will have the pledge. Patrice, do you want to start?
Good afternoon. Good evening. It's better. I have three friends with me from third grade who are going to introduce themselves, and they are very excited for the pledge. So, I'll turn this kind of. Sorry. Okay, ready?
I pledge allegiance.
No, what's your name?
Oh,
We just went over this.
Jessica Swain.
Jessica Swain. All right.
Jennifer Swain.
All right, come on.
Nevaeh Hooper.
All right. And we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, then you can tell us what class you're in, okay?
Two.
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can you tell me who your classroom teacher is and your favorite part of school?
Wait, which one do I do first?
Whichever one you want. Who's your classroom teacher?
Miss Cowett.
Miss Cowett, and what is your favorite part of school?
Math.
Math, why do you like math?
It's hard.
It's hard, all right, that's good. What about you?
Mrs. Shellhammer, the best teacher in the whole wide world. My favorite part of school is art.
In art, okay, very cool. All right, and how about for you? Who is your teacher and what is your favorite part?
Mrs. Shellhammer, I like science.
Science, all right, is there anyone you guys want to say hi to?
Hi, Mom. Hi, Miss Rye. Hi, Miss Rye.
All right, we got some bows, we are good. Thank you.
Wonderful job. Thank you all very much. Okay, that brings us to adjustments to the agenda. I have the board to entertain if we could move elementary road to success up to A from B, and then prorated tuition to B. I just know we have people,
Elementary to A and then equated to B and then everything else down.
and then move everything else down. I just know we have quite a few people in attendance tonight. Bert?
I don't believe that we should have the Croydon discussion in public.
Okay.
Not a private discussion, because we're not discussing tuition or anything else at the
Contracts.
moment. It's not a contract, the contract is in place, it's not a contractual discussion at the moment.
I think
It
it's.
doesn't have to be a contractual discussion. It has to be a discussion that gives the party that is on the other side a clue as to what is happening.
At the moment, nothing is happening though, because they haven't approached us with anything.
Okay.
They're under a contract at the moment.
I am cognizant of that.
Right,
But I'm
so-
also cognizant that any discussion that would give a clue is something that ought not to happen in public.
I would disagree on the other side of that, simply because we're not renegotiating a contract tonight, and we have a whole room full of people who have that as a concern.
I think it's worth at least addressing the concern publicly. If the board feels like we need to have a non-public, we can.
We can go into
We can
non-public.
go into non-public. I'm not opposed to that at all.
Then if that's the case, then we need to listen and not speak so that we don't give a position away.
That's the point of public
All right.
comment.
Any other adjustments other than those two?
Yes, I would say that I would move that we do away with the 3-minute limit. The people that have come here to speak tonight deserve to be heard regardless of the time it takes them to say it.
Is there any discussion on that?
In a second.
I'll second it.
Second, okay. Any discussion on that? Right now we have 7 people that have signed up, unless somebody asks to join from Zoom.
The only reason why I'm seconding is just to make sure everybody gets a chance to be heard, and I would ask that everybody try to keep it as succinct as possible, but to not monopolize everybody else's time. Not to repeat what other people say.
My feeling on it is I'm hesitant to do that just because we have a policy in place and because it's an agenda item that we're going to discuss. But it is
And
up
it's
to that vote.
unnecessary because we can't act on it.
Would you say that we, in reorganizing and moving Croydon forward, that we could allow that participation there without a time limit? They're speaking on the subject,
For Croydon, you mean?
yes?
Because it's an agenda item. Well,
But it's not an
but
action
it's not
item.
it's not an actionable item.
I still think that the 3-minute, though, as a motion stands because a person comes here to speak, and the limitation on time, for some people, is not a problem, for some other people, it is. So my motion stays for that, but I also would accept moving Croydon forward so that the people who have come to speak can. So which motion you want to do first, Chip?
Yeah. All right, let's do I think the easier of the two motions. Let's do the motion to move Elementary Road to Success to A and Croydon to B. I don't believe there was a second for that. So is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. That has to be a roll call vote. So Rhonda.
Rhonda Callum King, aye.
Bill?
Bill Wilkinson, aye.
Steve?
Steve Morris, aye.
Bert?
Bert Spalding, Senior, yes.
And Jenna Darling, aye. As to the second motion of, I heard two motions. I heard eliminating the 3-minute for tonight or eliminating it just for Croydon. So could I have some clarification on that?
We will handle the 3-minute limit under item A, which is now C. So that can wait till then. So allowing people to speak under Croydon without a time limit is the only motion that's left.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
I'll second them.
Okay. Any discussion before vote?
All the words have been said. They've come here to speak, and there should be no time limit.
Rhonda?
No, because we already had a policy in place when they signed up to, and they knew it, it's on the thing.
Okay.
We can't act on it anyway.
Okay. Bill?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Steve?
Aye.
Okay. Bert?
Yes?
And I will say no. So that motion passes. So there will be not a 3-minute rule on that item. Okay, are there any other adjustments to the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, let's go to approving the public minutes of March 10th. Is there a motion on those minutes?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I have one change on page 2. Coming up from the bottom, just above public comment. It was an error by whoever did the minutes. That should say that statement is by Bert Spalding.
Okay. All right. Any other changes, adjustments, or discussion? All right. All those in favor of accepting those minutes with that change?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Thank you very much. That brings us to public comment. All right. So, I have Urban, is the last name?
Good evening. My name is Sharon Urban. I live at 101 Laurel Street. I've been active in Newport for about 40 years and taught at the middle and high school for over 25. And I'm here tonight because first I want to thank the school board. I want to thank you for your public service. I have to be home by 6 o'clock for family. You don't have that luxury, and I thank you very much for your service. I also want to thank the taxpayers of Newport for supporting the Sugar River Tech renovation and the budget and the contracts. My concern tonight is indeed item now B on the agenda. And I just want to make a couple of very simple statements about the dilemma that we find ourselves in when our neighbors have kind of gotten themselves into a pickle over the education of their children. As a strong advocate for public education, this says to me that we are looking at two failures of action. We're looking at a failure of action of the state to adequately fund education and to rely so heavily on the property tax. And we're looking at a failure of Croydon's citizenry to do what I make a good faith effort to do, and that is always to come to my public meetings and to vote. And by those two failures, that does not mean that the Newport taxpayers need to compensate. And so what I would say is that I hope we will indeed educate Croydon children to the best of our ability if we are asked, but only at the tuition rate that has been established and is fair to the taxpayers of Newport. I don't know if that took 3 minutes, but I'm done.
Good evening. I'm Jeffrey Kessler. Currently, I am the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, but I am speaking for myself mostly tonight. I'm speaking on your 3-minute rule. Now, I was on the school board for 5 years. I've been on the Board of Selectmen for an awful lot of years. And what I'm seeing and hearing down at the Board of Selectmen, we often hear that we can't do things because we got to fix the schools first. But I don't see that happening here. There's doesn't seem to be any connection between the school board and the community, really. And I think it's because of that 3-minute rule. The public feel limited in their ability to come out and talk to you. You guys got bad advice when you put it in place. The town and the schools were doing fine without it beforehand. And I seriously believe if you want to connect with the community, work together with the community to improve these schools, and we hear down there just how Newport rates on certain scales, and it gets tiring, and it's probably impacting the economic ability of the town to improve and grow because the school's rated so lowly on some scales. So what I'm asking you to do is take a serious look at doing away with your 3-minute limit. It isolates you from your public, from your parents and such, and it's I think it's just bad form. And you need to try to improve your communication with the community and their communication with you, and I think that would help quite a bit. The other thing I think needs to be changed is the time you meet. 5 o'clock is, right in the middle of dinner time, getting kids ready. I think for myself, I'm much more able to at least watch your meetings if it's at 6 or 6:30 like it used to be, and I would ask that you change your meeting time. Now, getting back to improving the schools, I really don't see anything on your agenda. It should probably be a constant item on your agenda if you want to do anything. I think one starting point, I think one of the two new board members, I watched them on NCTV, and one of them, I guess whoever it was that was a long-term sub, made the comment that what he saw in the students he worked with was not reflected in what the school was rated at. Those students were a lot better than the rating gave them. That should be an open discussion between you, the administration, and the parents as to what's going on and how do we turn this around. Maybe the schools are better than the rating shows, But how do we get that out, and how do we advertise it, and move these schools forward? And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Irwin.
Good evening, I'm Biddy Irwin, and I live at 182 Fletcher Road, and I have had a long history with this district, as most of you know. Like Mrs. Urban, I want to congratulate the 2 new members of the school board, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you operate and support our district. And I want to tell you that as your new moderator, I'm looking forward to working with you. I'm looking forward to hopefully having continuously productive school meetings and moving our district forward, as Mr. Kessler indicated. There are 2 things that are on my mind, other than saying hello and welcoming you, Steve and Bill. I, too, am a little bit concerned about your public comment period, not because of the 3 minutes, but because of the 15 minutes. I think we can talk quickly in 3 minutes if we have something cognizant to say, but I think saying 15 minutes for the whole group is a little unrealistic. I've read your policy. I see that you have some latitude to waive it, as you tried to do this evening, and I would hope you would reconsider the 15 minutes. And also, Croydon's problem is not our problem. I fear that the folks who were the most strident making that policy change, A, don't have children, and B, homeschool, and have worked very hard over the past 15 years to try to dismantle the Croydon system. So I would hope that Newport does not pick up the tab for Croydon. We have always given them consideration in a tuition rate. We set a tuition rate, it's around 16,000, 17,000, and in past contracts, because they guarantee X number of students, we have given them consideration. But $7,000 or $6,000 is too big a consideration. So as you deliberate later this evening in non-public about the tuition, please keep the taxpayer in mind. Thank you.
Ms. Grigno.
Lisa Frigno, Newport citizen, co-president of NTA and first grade teacher. I'm excited to see the elementary road to success on the agenda this evening. I'm sure the school board will be doing what teachers do every day, looking at the data and our students' needs to decide how to adjust and supplement to help our students achieve. This is the work Newport teachers have been doing by developing curriculum maps, meeting during PLCs, those are professional learning communities, and reviewing the data and examining the latest research to improve our instruction. What we have learned while we examine the data is that Newport students came into the 21-22 school year with overwhelming needs and deficits, that teachers are striving to adjust our curriculum and teaching methods to meet those changing needs, and the cost of inadequate education funding from the state and level-funded budgets at the town level have hurt our schools. Problems for which we need to find solutions include, through our work, studying the science of reading and recommendations from the IDA, that's the International Dyslexia Association, we learned we need resources. That is an area we need to improve. Our reading and phonics programs have not been updated. There are bits and pieces in classrooms and closets. Teachers are purchasing their materials with their own money to supplement and give the students what they need. The program's journeys and envisions have not been updated to align with the newest research, and not all of the primary teachers are trained in these programs. Some teachers have purchased, at their own expense, math curriculums that better meet the needs of students. Another problem for which we need to find a solution is having adequate staff while staying within a bare-bones budget and attracting staff with some of the lowest salaries in the state. Our students have also lost out due to cuts to the Title I program at the federal level, and the community's inability, because of our high taxes, to pick up that slack. The research is clear in its recommendation of more instructional time. For those students who struggle with reading, the IDA recommends students participate in core instruction, an additional instructional period, and a third practice at home with families. Unfortunately, with only 2 part-time Title I reading teachers for 4 grade levels, we do not have the staffing to meet that recommendation. A final area we need to improve on is helping our students' social and emotional needs. When our students are the victims of trauma or insecure households, they come to school hungry, cold, anxious, and we have to manage those needs before we can begin teaching. We have to find a way to support our families, help them engage in their children's education, and for this entire community to recognize the value of education. I look forward to hearing the board's plan to help our students become the best they can be. Thank you. Sure.
Could that report, what you just read, what we read, would you give that to the superintendent?
Sure.
Not that copy, another copy, but, and are you staying for the issue tonight?
Yes.
Mr. Beard?
Tim Beard. While our schools remain at the bottom, some teachers in school have found it important to teach about non-binary and binary people. For those that don't know what that means, they don't identify as male or female. I find this rather interesting because for the last 2 years we've been told to follow the science on COVID-19. I'm assuming this teacher hasn't read a science book. Binary and non-binary doesn't exist except in the confused minds of some children. This article was an assignment in a 7th grade English class about a famous TikTok that is non-binary. I find it puzzling as to why this school is pushing TikTok, as TikTok was a cause for the school bathrooms to be destroyed last fall. I'd like to know why the school is pushing this sexual explicit garbage on children. I'd like to share a case of Martinez versus the Los Angeles County and Department of Children and Family Services in 2020. This poor woman's child was aggressively pursued in implementation of inclusive, gender-affirming laws, policies, supportive services to LGBTQ plus youth. The agency noticed that LGBTQ children face significant disparities in physical and mental health outcomes, including higher suicide rates. Martinez was suing, claiming that the LA County School didn't properly treat her child's depression, yet pushed her child to identify as a male, sign up for transgender treatments, with ultimately having contributed to her suicide. Our children are failing state testing in core areas, yet for some reason the school finds it's important to push non-binary and binary topics, which can't be backed up by science. It's time for the district to return to its core education that's meant to teach. It's time to take our school from the bottom and perform at the top. Our children deserve a fair and adequate education. I'm not seeing that happen. You are failing our future. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I have at least 2 more people that would like to speak. So according to our policy, we have to take a vote on that. So I would make that motion that we allow Ms. Kidder and Ms. Hubert to speak. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, Ms. Kidder.
My name is Chris Kidder, and I live here in Newport on Walnut Street. I've been a teacher here for over 35 years, and I'm really happy that we're going to try to do something for the school to make it better. But I just want to remind people that we were a blue ribbon school, and when we were a blue ribbon school, we had Title I teachers for first grade, Title I teachers for third, fourth, well, actually not fourth because they were at Toll. So I definitely know about Richards. Also, we had paraprofessionals in each room to help with doing that third layer that children need about extra reading, extra work in writing and things like that. I just want to say that I'm hoping that we're going to keep the staff that we have and that we're going to keep the principals that we have, because it's so important to have consistency. And it's so important that the children are supported. They're great kids. Thank you very much.
All right, Ms. Hubert. Oh, it's your name on there.
Didn't make it over there.
Okay. Whomever would like to speak. I don't need your name on a piece of paper, but. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Hi. I am Gunter Hubert, live on Springfield Road in Newport, and in this year, June, will mark 50 years when my mom and dad moved us all, family, to Newport. So, half a century. I guess I'll speak as public comment, but I really have questions, more than just commenting, and I will kind of ask those questions now, I guess. First question, does Croydon have a contract to send their students to Newport? Are there any consequences for Croydon if they break the contract? Excuse me. Third question, how much revenue do we count on from the residents of Croydon for our budget? And if we don't receive that revenue, how much will that cost the Newport taxpayer? Another question, what other districts send their children to Newport? And how much is that revenue? And lastly, there was a Croydon resident that mentioned about Newport willing to accept half a loaf. If the board did that, would it not be fair to assume that that reduced tuition would also be expected of other communities that may send their children to Newport? And if that happened, how much would that additionally potentially cost the Newport taxpayer? I know those are all questions rather than comment, but I guess this is my chance to ask them.
So I will say that we have, I think, just about all of that information this evening, so we will have that in
Thank
the
you.
agenda item.
From one lefty to another. Thank you, Dr. Minahan.
You actually could have emailed them too, and you would have had them already, you would have emailed.
Oh, okay.
Either way, but I got it.
Well, thank you, appreciate that.
And I'm sorry, there was another sign-up sheet that I didn't
That's okay.
collect, so that was,
Well,
that
thank
was
you.
my fault. Okay, so, either Miss Wells or Miss Hubert, those are our last two. Go ahead.
Hello. I am Lucy Wells, 355 Chandler's Mill Road. It's not as muddy as people say. I made it here. Those of you, few of you who know me, know that I agree with just about everything that has been already submitted. Some of these folks are even smarter than I am about their comments and questions. Hard to believe, but it's true. I want to know, first of all, if you might, at least temporarily, turn all your name tags toward the audience so we know who you are. Thank you. I appreciate that. Second of all, I would like you to speak a little louder because none of us are in front of our computers able to hear whatever audio might be there. None of us in this room anyway, most of us in this room. Third, is this the time when I may add a public comment regarding Croydon and tuition?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My husband is a retired teacher from Newport Schools. He was the auto tech teacher for a number of years. And he has said to me, and he's tried to call twice tonight, I'll have to discipline him, but he has said to me, as you well know, vocational education is what America is all about. And that message apparently has not made it to the citizens of Croydon who voted. If any of their students want any of the specialized or combination vocational education programming that is offered here in Newport, they are going to have to find a location and drive themselves a long way to get their students to those programs. I would also note that early information about the improvements that we have all voted on, or most of us have voted on, for the vocational center that those improvements may indeed include some adult education component. For a year, I was asked to be in charge of the adult ed program here. I'm not sure it's been run since then, but there were a variety of programs offered, not all of which were easy to offer because they were not part of the vocational system that was established. And those teachers have contracts that we like to abide by. So I would like you, in whatever subtle or beating over the head you do with Croydon voters, to make it clear that the vocational aspect of this school system has been long in the works, has improved year to year to year to year, and compared with many schools is an excellent opportunity at a time in our cultural and employment history in this country when even the people who've been to law school acknowledge that vocational education is a critical component of education and is critical for students to be able to develop skills that will take them pretty directly into the workplace, many of whom, I understand, have used those skills and those certifications while they are paying tuition at colleges. But vocational education is something that my husband has been involved in auto technology for most of his life, from junior high students to the corporate world. And it is sometimes a hard sell. We may take it for granted here. We may not impress upon Croydon's voters that this is an opportunity that is in their neighborhood. And if they choose not to participate in Newport schools, as their majority voters seem to indicate, then I say hit the road. Don't come here. Sign off on that contract. If they don't get it, if they can't take a tour of this school and everything that it offers, then I don't get it. And I don't want them to climb aboard this system in a way that is inadequate to educate their children. Whether their children are nearly adult in the high school, or whether they're in 7th grade or 8th grade, wherever. If they cannot recognize the opportunity that's here, they've got some answering to do to their population. The real estate people in Newport will be ready to sell homes here for anyone from Croydon, I'm sure, that wants to put their kids through Newport schools. We'd be glad to have the business, and I'm not in the real estate business. But I would tell you that this involves some serious marketing. This involves some common sense, education of our neighbors. And the Free Staters are going to do what they want to do anyway. Fine, go ahead, but don't impose their values on their population. They need to understand that there's a good academic program here, that there's a good vocational program. Where else are they going to go? Where? Where are they going to take their kids? Are they going to go to Claremont, where there's an entirely different vocational program offering? Are they going to drive an hour and a half to Concord for auto tech, wherever it is now? Are those students going to come away with certification at an entry level to healthcare? I don't think so. And if anyone wants to talk to Brad Sears about automotive technology and vocational education, I've got his number. I've got his email. He is very articulate on the subject of vocational education. And he's 87 years old. He's sharp as a tack, in part because he is a vocationally oriented technician. So he'd be glad to talk with any of you. And he's in Florida, which is keeping him alive, except for, of course, for the governor. He's kicking butt down there, and he's staying alive. And he's quite articulate about vocational education. It's worked well for him as a student, as a teacher, as a mentor, and it's worked well for a great many of his students. There are 30-year-olds coming by my house telling me, "Where's Brad?" Asking, "Where's Brad?" He was my best teacher. He kept me in school. So please know that I fear the marketing hasn't been done to families in Croydon, not even by Croydon people. And I fear that they haven't gotten on a bus as families and come here and taken the tour. And I really would like to see, I would have liked to have seen posted on voting day the plans for the vocational center. One of the things this town does not do well, either on the town side, Jeff, or on the school side, is put the plans on the wall or on a board in several places so that people can look at them, review them, pay attention to them, know what they're voting for. And I'm willing to bet that marketing was not done in Croydon. So please, do not take voters for granted. Do not take participating schools for granted. That's the worst thing we do in America, is we take what we do well, we take it for granted. And we don't share the information, not because we don't know how to say it. We just assume that everyone knows what's in our head and our hearts. We assume too much. And I don't need to educate you folks on what that means. So, most of you here I do not know. And chances are you don't know me. I live on Chandler's Mills Road. I got a used bookstore there. Some of you here will be glad to know I'm trying to get out of town. But I'm not gone yet. Thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, Ms. Hubert.
Hi, I'm Kathy Hubert. I live on 179 Springfield Road. And we all know that New Hampshire has one of the most aging populations. Our population is also declining. We see that in our student enrollment. We also know many communities, Newport's one included, the median income of a family of four is not keeping up with the state average. Actually, the last statistics from 2020, we are about 20% behind. So how do we meet the needs of our students, the needs of our taxpayers? Regionalization, efficiencies, sharing resources makes sense. But the way New Hampshire funds education, 70% on the taxpayer backs, prevents this from happening. And I'm going to pivot to the Croydon situation, as this is a perfect example. I will say that I actually had 2 Croydon residents call me because I know of my work on the state level for fair funding and adequate education. I do not believe the vote of the Croydon people, represents the Croydon people, and I feel very, very badly for the Croydon children. With that said, I'm a Newport resident. I feel more badly for Newport taxpayers and the Newport children, but I think we can hold all that together. I want to ask, is this fair? Is this unfair? And for the 14 people who voted for that ridiculous cut, let me show you something. And I just thought of this like 10 minutes before I came down, so this is very scratchy. But Susie, she's a Croydon ninth grader, and she sits in a Newport High class. Maybe she sits in English. She sits next to Mary, who's her best friend. She's from Newport. And they take the same English class, do the same homework. Susie's parents have a $200,000 home. Mary's parents have a $200,000 home. Parents, families work hard. Susie's parents in Croydon, for Susie's education in Newport High, pays $1,762, which actually is a deal because the median tuition cost for public schools in the state of New Hampshire is around $19,000, and I know we're offering Croydon less than that. I don't think they'll find that in Sunapee. I don't think they'll find that in Lebanon, and I don't think they'll find that in Claremont. Public school for public school. Mary's parents, they have a $200,000 home, probably right next to mine. They pay $3,602 for Mary to get the same education as Susie. That's the New Hampshire way. Fair? I'll ask you Newport taxpayers. Sustainable? Those Croydon, the people who voted in Croydon, you don't think you're getting a deal? I want your deal, not mine. I'm angry because people aren't looking at numbers. And people aren't looking to the fall. The biggest tax for most families is property tax. For most businesses in Newport is property tax. We have to address this. We need efficiencies. We cannot pit community against community. It's ending our options. We can't form a regional school with Sunapee, Goshen, Leominster. Look at Fall Mountain. What does Charlestown want to do? Highest property tax in the state. They can't afford the regional school in Fall Mountain. The last thing I'm asking you to consider, and consider with numbers, we keep on using the half a loaf because that was a ridiculous statement, but the gentleman who asked for the half a loaf, what he's asking, if it's 300,000, is that about 50 cents on the, 300,000 is about 50 cents on the taxpayer? Okay, huh?
Hey, Ed, unmute yourself if you're there.
I'm here. I'm having trouble hearing the conversation.
300,000, is that 50 cents on the tax rate?
It was like 65 to 460,000.
It's a dollar.
460 is a buck?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so half of that. So
So-
320. No, 260. 230. Thank you, Ed. Bye,
Okay,
Ed.
and I'm supposed, so so what they're asking, and I'm gonna use the number because I use 50 cents. They're asking Mary's parents, Mary's grandparents, and the Newport businesses to pick up 50 cents on the tax rate so Susie can go to school. And I know that's not Croydon, the majority of the Croydon taxpayers. It's a few. Please consider that in your conversation. I know the first year is going to be hard, but we can't take half a loaf. We can't afford to subsidize any more educations from other communities. And please, in the fall, any elected official, first question you ask, what are you going to do about my school taxes? See how they answer. Thank you.
Yep. Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to participate in public comment?
You would have to ask to unmute or raise your hand.
Okay, seeing none, then we will bring public comment to a close. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Okay, so let's start with elementary, Road to Success.
I can do the presentation. You're quite welcome.
Do you want to go up to the podium? Where does John want us?
We're good.
We're good?
Thank you.
Okay, staying right here.
Now I'm back to this whole thing. Okay, good to know.
We're a little tired.
Do you want me to give some background?
Sure.
Just before we start the presentation, I wanted to give a teeny bit of background for this. As people are well aware, good and bad. We've been, what, two years-ish into life in the world of COVID, and now that's, right, it's all gone now, so that's good. And we at least want to take the breather time to focus on what we're all here for, which is education. That's why you all run. That's why you're all in the audience. That's why the admin's all here. It's about educating our kids. And one of the things that we've been talking about, and I know some school board members have been talking about, is how we really have to try to reach the kids younger, because I have not been here 30 some odd years, whatever you said, Chris. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know that that's really changed over all that time, right? If you have the support for the younger kids, you teach them some of the core skills, which aren't all academic. It's sitting, it's being able to pay attention, it's being able to focus on something for a number of minutes. All of those things go into it. And the earlier you start that, the better off you are. I did not realize this. I've been rereading this book called Teaching with Poverty in Mind, because we have a fair number of kids who come from families that are considered in poverty. And this talks all about that, and it talks all about how if you can catch them young, you have such a greater opportunity to move them, because the brain is more plastic, so to speak, plasticity. So I will stop there.
I like your scientific words.
Yeah, that's why I'm stopping, because that's how it rolls. And I will let Patrice and Rob and Darlene helped with this, but
Darlene's hiding over there.
she's doing the non-speaking portion. I also do want to say that this information comes from all of the pre-K K1 staff. I put out, I don't know, how many different things have I asked you guys? A lot. And I really appreciate all their input and information. That's how I know we're all aligned. It's all good. So go ahead. Now you're up.
All right, awesome. So I do want to say, Darlene is sitting in the audience, Rob and I, Brendan, the K1 team, the preschool team as well. There's been a lot of input, a lot of conversations, but while we're talking about a plan moving forward and we're trying to address some of the specific concerns that have been brought up, this is already stuff that we've put in action that we're working on. I want to just stress that the teachers and the staff show up every day and they are working hard. And I think what we need to do now is provide those additional supports and resources that will allow everyone to be successful. I think it's been a rough couple of years. We've also had pre-pandemic, we had budget concerns, and we haven't been able to fully support and align to what we wanted. So I think that in order to be successful, that's what we're going to need. So if you want to. Perfect. So a little bit of where we're at, and these are just some numbers about the school district. Over 50% of our students qualify for free or reduced lunch. We have a very high transient population. They move between us, Claremont, Goshen. They come back sometimes 2 or 3 times within the same school year. So they start and stop a bunch of times. We also, especially this year, are seeing kids go homeschool and then come back and then go homeschool again and come back. So it is definitely important to note. 29% of the students are identified as special education. That number is down over the past 3 years. So if you've seen the annual report, you'll see that we are about, I think, 30 kids district-wide lower in special ed than we have in the past year. So, and that is a lot of work that the special ed department has done in setting some parameters and guidance around what qualifies. Our average proficiency in ELA over the past 4 years is 25.5%, and for math, it's 17.75%. So not fabulous numbers. I think it's important to note, though, that that 2021 data reflects COVID testing, where we had kids who were in remote learning come in if they could come in, and take a test in a gymnasium that they hadn't seen people and they've been in like remote world the whole time. And I do think that that's very important to note, that we also had low participation because of that. Let's go to the next one. So here's our goal. We really want to focus on early education. We want to provide all the children with a strong and early start. We believe as a school, as a community, that all children have the power to learn and the power to control their learning. And we think that with intentional support, effort, and staff training, students can, become those self-motivated, driven individuals that can read and write and do math. And, our hope is that they can do that effectively by 3rd grade and close that achievement gap. But that's a big ask. And while that's our goal, it's going to take the community and the board and the teachers and everyone committing to support that goal and ensuring that the resources and the focus is there for us to be successful. So Brendan talked a little bit about, the brain being a little bit more plastic when you're younger. So there's a lot of research out there that shows different age levels. I really like this one from birth to age 7. If you notice, that outer circle starts at birth, and that is movement, right? So kids, from the time they're born and continuing on, right, are constantly developing in their movement. And you'll see a slide in a minute that kind of has a person learning to crawl and then walk. That's a skill that develops over time and continues on. You'll notice some other skills like order and emotional control really kind of start younger in life, and then they fade off. They're not in their peak anymore. And other skills like music and writing and reading start older in life and then develop on. So brain development really at its peak in different areas, and those young grades really are the most plastic, as Brendan said. Flexible. All right. If you go to the next slide. So this is kind of the picture I was talking about. So we all know that people build on their previous skills and experiencing. So if we don't address it early, then they don't have that strong foundation to build on, and there are holes and gaps. But as we provide them the support and resources, and we can really put that focus there, they have a stronger foundation.
So, for those who don't know who I am, I'm Rob Clark, the assistant principal at Richards, first year, 4th year in the district. So, what I want to talk about is the focus of the whole child. Now, focus on the whole child is not new, okay? Sometimes we get so wrapped up into individual pieces that it seems like we're moving away from that. But our staff, our goal is to create a safe and caring environment. If students don't feel safe, if they don't feel as though we as adults care for them, it's difficult to learn. We've already talked about earlier that students come in from all different levels of socio-economic status, trauma experiences, and they're coming into our schools, into our building. Okay. So as an administration, our goal is to help students and staff be the very best they can be. Now it may be a cliche, but that's our job. Without students, without staff, we're not here. Okay. So we currently provide or meet the needs. So you see Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and so we understand that as students walk into our building, they're coming in from different places, like I said. So we provide a breakfast, we provide a lunch, we provide snacks, wonderful snacks, very healthy snacks.
Our teachers also provide classrooms full of snacks at all points in time.
So it's difficult to learn when you're hungry. You know that. We have family and community coordinators. The piece here, though, and we talked about it earlier, I think that we really need to address is not only do we have the family community coordinators that reach out to the community, but we as a school need to be open to community to come in. We need to make the commitment to communicating and involving our community, our parents. Okay, So that is one thing that I know COVID has has affected in a negative way. Okay, but we want to open our doors. We want parents to come in, and we want the community to be involved and in the decision-making. So relationship building, that happens all the time, okay, at every single level. I don't know of a staff member here at the elementary school or the middle high that don't truly care about their students, okay? And so without developing relationships, okay, it's again very difficult for students to learn. But also the relationships that I'm finding is that within the staff, okay, sometimes we can get separated or seclude ourselves in our room, okay? And you would think that we would connect and communicate and so forth, but sometimes this is my room, this is my territory. So what I'm seeing at the elementary school is that we're starting to open the doors and to work together. Okay, the VLT is a perfect example. We have resources. We have pre-K, we have kindergarten, first, all the way up to fifth. We have resources. Okay, and so we're working to improve that all the time. Positive recognition. Now, as the assistant principal, sometimes I don't always realize, I'm in a situation where I'm giving positive recognition. I'm dealing with behaviors, right? But I would say this, is that if we don't believe in ourselves, if we don't think that people around us are believing in us, it's difficult, okay? It's difficult to maneuver. So the more we can recognize the positive attributes of students, then we can build their self-esteem. We can build their confidence in themselves. And we also have to do that with our staff. We have to do that with our community. We have behavior specialists. So we have needs, right? We have behaviors in the classroom. We have universal expectations, but we also have students who come in who are behaviors a little bit more elevated, okay, need extra support. So we provide that support in our Tier 2 and Tier 3 programs. I'm not sure, out-of-school programming.
Before school, after school.
Before and after school. Thank you very much.
4-H.
4-H. So we want to expand that, opportunities for kids, for students. We want to take, again, resources and provide positive opportunities outside the walls or outside the hours of a school day. So we're beginning to do that. Ways we want to increase and going forward. We have been working on pulling data, okay? So we're pulling monthly behavior data, logins, and looking that we're sharing with staff. Right now, we're pulling the data. What we really have to work to do is, as we talked to staff yesterday, is that we have to take that data and make good decisions about how we proceed. And so we have a PBIS team, a positive behavior intervention support group, and we're looking at our values, we're looking at our identified behaviors, and establishing expectations, common expectations throughout the school, pre-K all the way up to 5, okay? Is that we're all in this together, okay? A 5th grade teacher is in it for also pre-K, K 1 and 2. Pre-K, K 1 and 2 teachers in for 5th grade. We all need to speak the same language. We all need to be saying and giving the same message, and that we support every single student that walks through that building. Birth to 5 outreach, you can speak a little bit more of that, but the earlier, this is the whole point, right? The earlier we can identify needs of students and provide that opportunity for them to be a part of an educational program is...
Yeah, so there's surrounding communities that use different programs and outreach methods that really address that birth to age 5. They start parenting groups younger, monthly meetings to get families in and going over, basic needs and helping them come up with different ideas and ways to play, also increase that social environment. So that would be a goal of ours. And then the other piece is that consistent Tier 1 social emotional curriculum is something we've heard from the staff. And we agree that they need in the classrooms to help address not only just our everyday pieces, but, you know, as normal elementary school students, but as students are coming in, we're seeing the effects of a pandemic of 2 years, of people not socializing with each other. I saw the teachers in the audience laugh a little bit when Brendan said to just tell them to sit, because it doesn't work like that. I mean, you can try, but they don't always sit.
So
Very rarely do they sit.
That's a
Yeah.
great lead into mindset and fixing growth. But the other thing is, we're accountable. Okay, and I just want to say this, the fact that we're having this conversation, okay, for some of you may think this is overdue, okay, but having the conversation, putting it out in front and saying, what are you doing and how are you doing it, and how we can communicate to the board, communicate to the community, that we are accountable to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, and that we're providing your children a safe, okay, caring environment. Okay? So I think that's really important, and I'm really glad that we are having this conversation. So when we go into fixed and growth, and we had an example of that earlier, but I'm amazed at how many students at a very young age believe they can't do something. I'm amazed that they can articulate that they know they can't, or believe they can't. And so, you know, I also see a staff that embraces a growth mindset. Okay, it's not the way it was when I started in 1985. Okay, how we approached things and how we dealt with situations and how our expectations is not the same. Okay, and so I know that even by going from the middle high school down to elementary school, I've had to learn that my fixed mindset, I've been challenged. You're laughing, I know, you are. But it's a daily thing. But we're also, there are systems and there are approaches that are successful no matter the age. Okay? We just have to make sure we're using the right ones, identifying those. I think that, again, the staff shows a wonderful growth mindset, and looking at the data, looking at relationships, looking at what we can do to always improve ourselves as educators. Okay, and sometimes, right, we say, really, that'll work? Really? And we have to also step out on a ledge and make decisions, I think, that we may not always be comfortable with, but we're asking our students to step out of their comfort zone. And in order to do that, we have to be able to do that. So empowering students, and we talked about this earlier, to be actively involved in their educational process. Okay, so yes, it is developmental, it is age, but I really think that the most important thing is making sure that, or working to ensure that students feel as though they are part of their process. Okay, and that we're not just talking down to them, we're talking at them, but they're a part of the process. And as administrators, we need to support our staff so that can happen.
The next one's just another slide.
Yep.
So I think the important piece that we've kind of been talking about and the growth mindset is that our kids don't enter preschool or even kindergarten with the same background. They do not come in the same. Some come in having only been at home with a parent for, 3 or 4 or 5 years. Others come in having been to a very structured preschool system, knowing their letters, their numbers, and, practicing sight words. That's a really big gap. And what we want is to commit to, equity and access for all students. We want to help all students build that strong foundation, regardless of the background and skills that they come in with. This is your.
Oh,
This is the video. So we have a little video about. Oh.
Do I have to turn off my phone?
You probably have to turn on your volume.
One moment, please. Oh, no. Oh.
This character's right. Thanks, John. hours to prepare and you get fined. 72 minutes.
And saw a child trying to swim towards the shore. Help, said the child. The current is too strong. So the carpenter grabbed a boat and rescued the child. How did you get into the river? Asked the carpenter. I fell in upstream, said the child. The next day, when the carpenter looked out onto the river, he saw two children struggling to swim towards the shore. Help, the children said. The carpenter called out to another villager, and together they rescued the children. But the next day, there were 5 children, and the next day there were 12, and soon the whole village was busy rescuing children from the river. The villagers grew weary, and soon the boat started to leak and break from overuse. The carpenter worked tirelessly to repair them, but as the number of children in the river grew, soon there weren't even enough boats to get the job done. One day, the carpenter asked himself a question. Why and how are so many children falling into the river in the first place? So he bravely ran upstream to find out. There, he saw a big, windy village with many houses, and some of the houses were in a state of disrepair. And when the wind blew especially hard, the houses creaked and cracked, and things were swept out of them and into the nearby river. Sometimes what was swept up was children. The carpenter saw an old lady walking by. Excuse me, he said to the old lady, tell me, why are these houses so broken down? Why aren't these houses stronger? The people of this village want to fix these houses so that they can resist the wind, the old lady replied. But we do not have the tools to do so, and the wind lately has been especially strong. I can help, said the carpenter. And with the help of the old lady, he gathered the villagers, gave them his hammer, and taught them how to use it, so that they could learn to make their houses strong when the wind blew especially hard, and keep their children from falling into the river. Yay! Because you see, if we make the effort to go upstream and help build strong foundations there, we won't need to work so hard to rescue children downstream. There was once a carpenter.
You're still
that
the
lived by a
carpenter.
river.
Uh-oh, come on, carpenter. Okay.
When we originally watched this video, the thing that we first mentioned or noticed was the weary villagers at the end, right? And, or in the middle, before they went upstream. And I think that speaks to, I think, education as a whole right now, to everyone, is tired, right? Everyone is a little weary. And we are working our best to rescue all of the people in the river, but it is a lot of work. So, this is kind of our thoughts and plans on trying to address it earlier and making it maybe less work towards the end. So one of the things that is important to think about when you're talking about upstream and downstream is the 3 realms of ACEs. And ACEs are adverse childhood and experiences and community experiences, actually. I don't want to go too much into this, but I think it's important to note that there are children in our community that experience severe stress at home. They have toxic level of stress and trauma. The realms of ACEs break down from household, environment, and community. And I love this one, it's updated, and environment, they include pandemic, right? That is a trigger for some of our students, that toxic stress, that uneasiness that they've felt over the past couple of years due to family members losing jobs or being with family members or not being able to go do things and socialize in the way they used to. That adds a layer of stress that prevents our kids from accessing learning. And, that trauma cannot be easily dismissed. That is something that we need to address, we need to work with, and we need to teach our staff and our students how to manage that and use that as a way to strengthen themselves and ourselves and go forward. So family and community engagement is one of those pieces that we think is really important. We've talked a lot about inviting the community back into the school, looking at that whole child. We just have some information. We did a family and community survey about a month ago, asking families which activities they participated in this school year. No surprise, the Halloween parade has the most participation. People love the Halloween parade. Also, parent-teacher conferences and the back-to-school open house nights were the most. We are at a place where people want to be back in our school, and we want them back in our school. Those are the things they like the most. We also had success with some take-home activities where we sent resources home. Again, the Halloween parade is their favorite. And we did a one tiger, one tail, which also got some pretty good motion. All right. One of the questions we asked was, did you feel like you had the resources at home? For the most part, it looks like family members did feel they had the resources at home, but it's important to note that some of them did not have the resources at home to complete these things. So as a school community, we can look at, when we do these things, how do we make sure kids have what they need in order to be successful? We're currently doing a reading challenge, and one of the things that was brought up yesterday at our board meeting, or at our faculty meeting, was that kids may not have the home environment that supports reading, but they want to read, and they want to earn different stickers and bookmarks and book vending machine tokens. So how could we address that? And one of the teachers says, well, I'll take a group in the morning. If you get a sign-up list, I'll take a book. I have an extensive library. They can use my books. So working together to kind of figure out how to provide that to them. So the other piece we have to do is support our families. We have a family community coordinator at the school. We've done family education nights. We haven't done the gigantic Title I nights in the past couple of years. But those are things that we're looking into figuring out how to do and how those can look like. Parent University has been a few years since we've done that, but providing resources that parents and families want to know about. Local community partnerships, parenting groups, and then platform communication. So using both social media and emails and text messages and phone calls, and classroom teachers use, Seesaw and ClassTag, and making sure that we're reaching families the way they want to be communicated with so we can share that information. And all of this is important, and I know some of you are probably wondering, why we're talking about all this, but we can't get to this knowledge and the skills and the teaching unless we're looking at that big picture. That's important. We need to address the whole child. We need to talk about that growth mindset, the equity, the needs of their students, and our engagement. So with that in mind, addressing the knowledge and the skills, we need to provide trained instructional paraeducators in our classrooms. These are students who don't know how to sit when you tell them to sit sometimes because they're 3, 4, 5 years old, right? So these are some skills. We need to expand our play-based and inquiry-based learning, review our curriculum options to make sure we have the best and most relevant resources, support our staff with comprehensive training on how students learn. We have a group right now doing a book group on the science of reading and how kids learn how to read. That's great. We need to do some best practices for handwriting, phonics, reading, and math instruction, put the PBIS framework into play, and really up our trauma-informed practices. We know a lot about what trauma does to students and in the classroom, but what do we do next is that next step that we're missing. We want to involve families and community for appropriate supports. We want to get people in and be part. And then we need to recruit and retain quality staff who believe in our vision. We need to have people working with us who do believe in a growth mindset and that our kids can get there and that we need to do the whole child experience. So if you're looking in the classroom, students learn best when they have an active role in the learning environment, when they're engaged, when their information is meaningful, and when they interact in a social context. They don't learn necessarily by just talking at them, similar to what we're doing to you tonight. We apologize. So if you go to the next slide. So thinking about that play-based and inquiry-based learning, the preschool period, which is that it's really preschool kindergarten period of 3 to 5, is when students develop their most language, social, emotional, and cognitive skills. Play in preschool enables children to explore and make sense of the world around them, including developing their imagination and creativity. When you get to, first and second grade, those 6 to 8 ages, this is a critical piece that is often neglected when we focus just on academics. Active play-based learning approaches really help strengthen motivation and outcomes, teach kids to think creatively, gather information about the world around them, and practice social and language skills. We had an interesting conversation today about watching children play a game and not stepping in to tell them what the rules are. and letting them negotiate between themselves which rules they're gonna follow. Because they might play this way at home, and this one plays this way at home. And it's so easy for us to step in and say, no, this is what you're going to do. But instead, empowering everyone to step back and let them figure that out. And it might be uncomfortable for a few seconds, but that's a life skill that they're going to use later on, figuring out how to negotiate a conversation, how to make compromises, how to take in other people's point of view and have a conversation without insulting them, right? These are skills that we need to be focusing on that are important for our kids and will help them be successful later on. So what we want to do is what we're already doing, right? But we want to do it more strategically. We want to do it with the supports and the resources we know are necessary. And we want to focus on students being able to read, write, compute, and communicate by third grade. We want to close the achievement gap, and we want to make sure that our kids are able to finish elementary school strong with their skills and enter middle school and high school and CTE with a strong foundation in order to be successful.
So, to recap, basically, the plan that we have involves working to make sure that our curriculum, we have the resources to support it. I was telling one of the board members today, I was so happy to see when I put out the survey, everyone said, yes, we have what we're gonna teach, our curriculum maps. We know when and how we're gonna teach it. The pandemic has thrown a little bit of a wrench in keeping on track, but we have all that. That is so awesome because that means that we can now go to the next level, right? What else do we need to be supportive? So I think it's important, if I may, just to differentiate paraeducators, right? So we have paraeducators who work individually with a student who may have special needs. They may work with a small group of students who may have different needs. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about classroom paraeducators at the younger grades who can provide additional support, allow for more personalized learning. Flexibility for the teacher to take a small group who's having, some difficulties with maybe letter recognition, whatever it might be. Or equally challenging at times, especially for kindergarten and pre-K teachers, there's someone else who can help bring Johnny or Sally to the restroom or put on their coat and boots when it's time to go outside in the wintertime. So that's the type of support. The community engagement piece, important, very hard. If you look at the research, it's really hard, and it gets harder as you go up the levels, except for sports and other sporting events where people do show up. And then the growth mindset and the fixed mindset is research based on the work of Carol Dweck, and it basically says kids who believe that they can't achieve, they believe they're not smart, they believe that they'll never do well in something, they won't. Kids that you say, hey, it's okay, let's try it again this way. Or who have this belief that, okay, well, maybe I didn't get it, but if I just try a little harder, there's a chance for me. They show growth in their IQ scores, which aren't supposed to grow very much. They show growth in self-confidence. And what you have to train, for lack of a better word, our staff to do and parents to do and the community to do is to focus on that, because that's how the kids will be more successful. If I know as a math teacher, even though I did not show that a few minutes ago, it was the stress of the moment, okay? Toxic stress. That's what it was. How many people do you hear like, I can't do math? Or math is super hard, or I can't count change, or whatever it might be. We have to change that mindset. Which one am I missing? Any other part?
Addressing all of their needs. Do you have a solution for that?
I don't, which is unfortunate, right? But I think that we can try to address their needs. Our kids, some of our kids, come in with incredible talking about Maslow's hierarchy, they're not past level 1. They got housing concerns, they have food concerns, they have where am I going to be sleeping tonight concerns. We can't solve all of that as a school. We can't do it. We can do our best. We have West Central Behavioral Health that comes in and supports our kids with their mental health. We have some support in the area of dentistry. We have some support in the area of, what am I thinking? Like physical well-being, although not as much as some others. We have food available for people. We have that, but it's not the consistent whole, right, that the kids need. And so I think working together as a community will be great. I do want to give a shout out, though, to, I know some of the elementary staff, but I also believe some of the middle and high. They personally take on some of these students whose home life is very challenging, and they take the kids on themselves. And the kids begin to thrive, they begin to experience, you know, what it's like to have a supportive family around them. So, makes me a little teary, actually. It's very impressive. So, that's today's lesson. Stop the share. So, now the question is, are we all behind that? And what are your questions?
I don't have a question, but I wonder if I could add a little something to that.
Sure.
If you don't mind. Yeah. It's something that both Brendan and Patrice mentioned. But you kind of mentioned it in passing. And that's probably because for educators, it's common knowledge. But for the general public, it may not be. So both Brendan and Patrice touched on the subject of poverty and how students from a lower socioeconomic background struggle academically. And I think that's something that's going to be very important for us as a board to consider when they come looking for resources, and certainly for the public and for the voters to consider, you know, when the time comes for a vote, you know, if that's what's necessary. To illustrate it, I had actually come prepared. I pulled some numbers off School Digger. That seems to be the popular website that everybody's talking about. And I don't know if you guys want to look at this, but for the benefit of those at home and those in the audience, what I wanted to show was the socioeconomic impact on academic success. So I looked at 5 districts on School Digger. First district I looked at was Hanover. They rank number 1. They have a K through 6 school. 3.5% of their students are eligible for free or reduced lunch. Moultonborough School District, they rank number 50. They have 3 schools, so at the elementary level, 23.3%, middle school, 27.2%, high school, 14.8%. Next one, Messinic, number 101. The elementary, 19.9%, middle, 29.2%, high, 24.8% qualify for free or reduced lunch. Newport as a district, I know we talked a lot about individual schools, but I was more interested in the district. Newport as a district ranks 145. Elementary school, 46.7 qualify for free or reduced lunch. Middle school, 38.3. High school, 28.1. Dead last in the rankings on School Digger was the Winchester School District. They rank 151st, that was dead last. They have a K through 8 school, 51.4% of their students qualify for free or reduced lunch. So it's been mentioned in passing. What this does is it illustrates research that's been conducted ad nauseum. You know, you can do a Google search for socioeconomic impact on education and come up with 12,000 scholarly articles that have been peer-reviewed and proven. So I really, the reason I did this is because I really want everybody to be aware, this is why a lot of our kids need more support. You know, we may wonder, why do our kids need this extra support? And obviously, it's not just because they qualify for free or reduced lunch. And anybody that's worked with kids knows there are some kids, my own kids, for most of their school career, qualified for free or reduced lunch. Both were exceptional at standardized testing. So it's not just that, it's the traumas that are much more prevalent in those economically depressed households. It's food insecurity, sadly oftentimes neglect, abuse, substance abuse issues in these homes. And, as they were saying, when kids come to school to be fed or to be loved or to feel safe, memorizing multiplication tables isn't as important. It takes a little more. And so really, I'm just trying to add some support. This is why it takes more. This is why, I believe they're focusing on the whole child. Because for a great deal of our kids, as with many similar communities in our state, it's more than just teaching 2 + 2 = 4. It's a lot more. And I think as a district and as a community, if we really want to offer all of our children the best chance at academic success, at some point, might be difficult for some people to swallow, we're going to have to put our money where our mouth is. We've heard ad nauseum how many support positions have been cut from Richards. I get it. People are concerned with money. I own a house in town. I pay property taxes. I've seen my mortgage payment fluctuate. I get it. But if we really want to offer our kids the best opportunity for academic success, at some point, we as a community are going to have to put our money where our mouth is. I'm sorry, that's all. I just wanted to.
You talked briefly about if you can, if you know you can, you can. I hope that you who have presented this tonight know you can. W. Clement Stone and his Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude is a book that should be read by everybody that decides that they really want to do something. But when you decide you really want to do something, you're already a quarter of the way into the book. So, I'm not a motivator, but I will say this. Run faster. I'm the barking dog on your butt.
That was you.
And I will also say the following. If you are not motivated by failure, you're already out of gas. So, I sat on this board almost 30 years ago with the same problem. And because I was worse of a communicator then than I am now, it didn't go anywhere. This time it has to go somewhere. And that doesn't allow, in my idea, excuses, period. You set a target, you reach that target, and then you move that target higher until you do. So if you would like me to smile and praise you, your report card is going to have to be good. Now that's me speaking. I don't speak like this man over here. He is a much better speaker than I am. So I should leave this up to him. And I guess I will. But I am going to be that barking dog. 211 to me is unacceptable. I asked for that item to be on the agenda and I said 211 of 211, and I put it in quotes. It's not on that agenda. Why did I do that? 9/11, 211. What happened on 9/11? We changed the way we think in most of the things that we do. Go on an airplane before 9/11 and after. Security, all of that changed because we remembered 9/11. So I will refer to this, regardless of what the author put down, as 211. Because this is our turning point. We are the worst in elementary schools in the state of New Hampshire by School Digger. You can say about all the other ones that say how you're doing. And when you get done all of the frosting and whatever that they put in it, what the hell did they say? School Digger is clear. If they're wrong, prove me wrong. But we are at the bottom of the barrel. So I will say in the first leg of this race, you get it made. Because when getting off the bottom ought to be real easy. But in the last readings, the middle school dropped 20 points. Unacceptable. So I won't praise failure. I will not praise mediocrity. I will work hard for you, for this district, if things are happening. Outside of that, I'm the anchor on the boat. Until you draw me in and put me on the boat, it ain't going to happen. And I've made it clear. And I've said I will resign if this doesn't happen, if it doesn't go forward. But when I resign, then I go on the other side. And now you got a significantly bigger problem. I'm asking you to change where we have been for 30 years. I understand all of your obstacles, but I also understand that you have an opportunity, but you got to rethink it. NASA, we gave them trillions of dollars, and Elon Musk takes the rocket and lands it on the barge in the ocean on its end and saves it and recycles it. Smarter than all the money we spent on NASA. Somebody's got to think out of the box. We got to find out who's doing it right, and we got to do it that right or better. To do the same thing we've been doing is failure. And the worst part about this whole thing is an admission that I will make. If I had spoke better and been better at what I did in 1990, the children that come into you would be better because the parents of those children would have had a better education. So I'm part of that failure. That's how I look at it. So I didn't get it done then. It will be done this time. That's a threat. That's the barking dog. And I will be nothing but. But I'll be on your side if you do it. So we got to the next test. The next test, this is what Brendan has to put up with, poor fella. The next testing that we do will be very important. I would like a succinct list of our obstacles. Example, students who don't want to take the test. What's the rationale? Because they do not feel successful? They think they will fail? Their motivation is not there. We need to change that motivation. We need to find that child before he takes that test. Teachers who are disenfranchised because of the load that they have. Second grade teacher doesn't get a second grader coming in, gets a first grader coming in. It can't happen.
That's lucky.
So if we look at this, that we will do it, if we look at it like a 211 in the mindset of 9/11, then we are motivated to do this. And if we're motivated to do it, as you guys have said, you'll be successful. Thank you.
Patrice? So, thank you. I agree with a lot of what you said, Bert. I think the important part is, and you can be the barking dog, and I will run as fast as I possibly can, but I can't run alone. I need the community behind us. I need the board behind us. It's not just me. It's not Mr. Clark. It's not just the teachers. Everyone has to be running. Because if we're not all running, then we're not going to get anywhere. You'll catch me. You will. You will, if it's just me. I mean, I am, and I walk a lot, but I can't be the only one standing up there, and the admin can't be, and the teachers can't be. Everyone has to be going together, because if we're not, it's just gonna be us in isolation.
Patrice, didn't 9/11 do that? Didn't we recognize as a nation, as people, of what was happening? So I think the community now will recognize that.
Okay.
You wanted a CTE center.
Jennifer did. I wanted elementary school, but
Well, I'm not.
I was cool with her programming.
I'm not going to be specific to the person,
I'm just kidding.
okay? You wanted it, she wanted it, he wanted it, you all wanted it, okay?
Yeah.
Community wanted it too.
Mm-hmm.
There was a number. 70 was the highest number in percent, and we got over that, okay?
Yep.
So, here we go.
Yeah.
If you want it done, you go for it. Every Olympic star trains, they go for it. So Patrice,
I've been training for this, I'm ready.
okay, so go for it.
But, go ahead, I'm sorry. Chomping at the bit, go ahead.
But I'm gonna be the Olympic judge, all right? And you have to, I try not to,
I prefer you on my team.
I may entertain that, but I do a better job chasing people and barking.
I won't disagree. Who says you can't do
So
both?
that all being said, I am not a complimentary person. I do not say, how are you to most people, because they really don't give a damn, okay? So the honesty of it is, please, recognize the problem has been here for a long period of time. Recognize that it is almost insurmountable, but you will land that rocket on its end in a barge in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, so I appreciate where you're coming from. You don't have to be complimentary, okay? But you have to be honest. We all have to be honest. We're gonna have difficult conversations. I may not like what I hear, but I can't improve unless I hear it. So I appreciate that. I don't think you, if I may, have to apologize for anything, okay? If it's been going on for 30 years, we need to make a change. So the barking dog, the coach, if you've read Boys in the Boat, we need to work together, okay? As Patrice says, not just admin, not just staff, but it's community, it's the board. We all working together, rowing in the same direction, okay? And I don't know how long that's going to take, but I'd rather have somebody behind me saying, you got to move, than being complacent. And I don't disagree with that. So I appreciate that. And I think that we're on that way. No, I don't think. I know we're on that way.
So just give me time.
Okay, I just want to say, I'm all in. And I may be the frosting person, and I know that, right? Well, get the good stuff, but I'm all in. But if we're going to treat this as a growth mindset, we can't beat 211 out of 211 over these kids' heads. How do you expect them to walk in and have a growth mindset when they walk in and go, well, I'm already the worst? What's the point? How do you expect teachers to walk in and teach to that? So if you want to call it what it is, which is 211 out of 211, that's fine. And then move on with that. And I believe we've had this conversation of, you said you didn't think we could get to the top, that you would just be happy in the middle. Well, let's not say that either then. If you want to keep moving that target, then move that target. Don't put in the middle as our stopping point. So I'm all in and I'm fine, but don't beat 211 out of 211 over those kids' heads. Not my kids' heads, not any of those kids' heads. They don't deserve it.
Jenna, the kids don't need to know the 211. For a matter of fact, that's not helpful. That is actually harmful. These people, the people who are running the education, need to know it and understand it. And we have to do our business in front of the public on TV. So what do? Shut up?
No.
Okay? So I'm going to be clear of my position all the way through this. And if students are listening, I can't help that. But I know that if I don't say it, it's not going to get done. And I failed at it once, I'm not going to fail the second time. It's gotta happen.
I
If you-
just don't want us to come to the table, because leading it with 211 out of 211, you come to the table with what you want to change to make things better. I just don't think the kids need to be beaten over the head with that. And if that's not how you're entering the conversation, then I'm all in, but I just had to say that.
I'm certainly not. The process is what needs to be done. We cannot change the children. In other words, Johnny walks in, oh, Johnny, no, turn around, we want a Jimmy. That doesn't work. We got to take Johnny for what he is, and we have to do it. But we need to see and understand and get Johnny through whatever the obstacles are, period. And that's done by these people. And we, this board, are the people that judge them on what they do. So there is no opportunity for me to sit back and be quiet, period. I want to see it happen. And I will make it happen one way or another. Now, is it going to cost this community extra money? Yes, it is. And I'm not against that. But it has to be money that has a result behind it. I am not going to surrender to anybody that we are going to stay where we are.
Steve and then Rhonda.
I want to end with a vote.
Okay.
That's all I want to vote.
Okay.
So a couple things. I saw that we only had 30 responses, and maybe you said you sent it out to less than the full student body.
No, that
It went out to everybody. So it goes back to what we're talking about with parent engagement. I think it goes back to what even Mr. Kessler said at the beginning of being open to the public and open to ideas and having a discussion and debate. So, we got to improve that. Parents, if you're watching, we want you to be involved. We had two senior elementary teachers mention that we need Title I very badly, and that looks like it's part of it. So while y'all didn't necessarily discuss positions, the next step for me is, I'm glad that we have the emotional, the framework, but how do we get these Title I teachers? Are we looking to where we can make cuts, whether it's, I know it's hard to say, but, we got to be good stewards of the money. We see what happened in Croydon. So if we want to get the hired-on staff that we need to improve our elementary so that it goes down into the middle school or up to the middle school and high school, then we need to do a serious look at budget and staffing, and not just for staffing, but across the entire school. And I know that we do that every year, but it needs to be included as part of this plan to get improvement in our elementary school. And then also, I just wanted to ask, who is reviewing the curriculum maps? Because the only thing that kind of concerned me during the brief was we're continuing to do what we've been doing. But again, we were talking that something's not working properly, and I was who he had said that heard, I've taught these kids, and I know that we're better than the stats show, but the stats are the stats. So anybody outside of town logs in and looks at our stats, we're at the bottom, regardless of what you and I think and all the good frosting we can put on it. There's no frosting for a raw data. So I just want to know who is reviewing our curriculum maps, and are we making sure that we got the right ones, and are we including goal setting for our students so that they set goals, they put it up on the board, and help everybody else, help them to reach them as part of the growth mindset.
We had a conversation yesterday about the goal-setting piece, which is actually really timely because we're talking about different types of assessments this spring. And one of the teachers, actually Ms. Frigno over there, suggested that we use our book vending machine tokens as a way for students to be rewarded for their growth. So talking to them about where they are, having that conversation, and then having them try the test this spring. And for students who demonstrate growth, giving them the book vending machine tokens, which they really are loving the book vending machine, which is awesome. And in terms of the curriculum maps, so those are maps that we've developed over the past couple of years. Teachers review and look at them and add and change and adjust each year based on, kind of, especially with COVID, where we've been at. One of the pieces in the plan was looking at, training and best practices on phonics and reading and math instruction. We heard a couple teachers talk about, we have Journey basal readers for our ELA, like hard curriculum books. Basal readers, specifically old Journeys ones, are not the best, most relevant resources for our students. They do the trick, but we can do better. So a lot of teachers don't even use those, and they pull from their own resources. So one of the pieces of this would be looking with our staff about, what resources they do need. And, if it's not a basal reader, but it's a different phonics program or design, then how do we do that? What does the evidence say, and where can we go from there? And we can use some of our grant funds, and we have set aside money for curriculum needs in the budget.
When is next time school dinner grades or scores or
It'll be in
whatever
the
you want
fall.
to call these come out?
It'll be in the fall.
All right, so can we table the 211 out of 211 conversation until then? I'm not saying stop on the path. I'm saying if my kid wakes up in the morning and I go, you got an F, and I wake him up tomorrow morning and I yell, you got an F, and I wake him up the next morning and I yell, you got an F, but he doesn't get tested for a month and a half, how is that in any way helpful? We continue the conversation, we get to where we're going, but if they're not getting graded again until next fall, how is it helpful to keep yelling 211 out of 211 every week when they don't have a chance to change it? Instead of saying, let's adjust the process, can we just table that part and attack the problem from here on out? They've heard it 3 weeks in a row, three meetings in a row, pretty sure they got it in their head. I don't think it's helpful to continue hammering it. If I did that to my kid, I would expect him to always get an F. Go ahead.
Well, no, I want to make sure that Steve and others know, Title I teachers it's a specific term. So Title I is funded by the federal government. And so we can only hire Title I staff to the extent that our grant will fund that. Now, we could, with Newport money, whatever, we could hire staff, but specifically Title I staff is a federal grant program. And then there was,
So do we need to?
oh, and it's been cut,
Yeah,
which
so
is
that's what I was just gonna say.
very
Nothing we can
accurate.
do for us, or-
Well, we can hire other staff, but they're not technically Title I staff.
Can I speak real quick?
You may.
So part of the problem with Title I, especially this year, was that we didn't get our allocations until, December?
Yeah.
So we hired staff based on what money we thought we were going to get based on previous years, but we didn't even receive that money. So in the grant, we only put half of our staff's salaries because that was all that you could fit in there. And then when we got the rest of the money in December, then we were able to do it. And then what they do is they then typically, I think they just gave us more money now.
Yeah.
But I can't find staff now because that money expires in August. So we've had it posted. We did just hire one new part-time Title I teacher, but there isn't a lot of people out there.
Well, I just want to add to this particular thing, Steve, and Bill and others. It's also, I don't know why they've done this to us, but I know you and I had you had the conversation, I was the recipient of it, about buses and masks and this and that, right? So the federal government or our state government, I don't know which one it is, but years ago, if we knew or had a strong belief that we were going to get, say, $1 million, we could go and we could spend the $1 million using our money and then say, give us the money back when they gave it to us. They've changed the rule, but they haven't changed when they tell you how much money you're gonna get. So now anything up to, say it's November, December, when they tell us our full allocation, we can't spend it. Yeah. It's highly infuriating. So if you want to get on something, that's one of the things. Okay, thank you.
Two things and then one other. The starting point for this is what grade years?
For the testing?
No,
Or for Title I?
4 to 11.
Oh,
Just for this whole,
it's the whole elementary,
the whole
so it's
elementary
grade
school.
3, 4, 5. which is based on data from probably 2019, which was the COVID year, right?
No, I think it's based on data from 2021. It's
Which
last
was
year's
the
data,
COVID
but
year,
yeah, it was
which
COVID
was the
year.
worst year. But so then those fifth graders are now in sixth grade. And the second graders that year will be taking the test for the first time as third graders.
Dividing our resources, as hard and as cruel as it sounds, if we limited our scope to first and K with no excuses, this is what we're going to do, and then, let me finish, Brendan.
No, I'm just
And-
thinking in my head.
And then expand it from there, a year at a time. First of all, we know it's going to take additional resources, so I would ask that this board get the finances possible, where there might be money that we could allocate to what's got to be done here in this first year. But if we divide our interest and bring too many grades in at once, I don't believe we'll be successful.
Well, but then if you're going by School Digger and School Digger is going by standardized testing, then what you want to change is standardized test scores, then you don't start at K1. If you want an immediate response,
Yes,
right?
yes, you do. If you're building a car, you put a frame underneath it that's good.
Okay,
So
but
you start at the beginning.
I.
Okay,
I
I'm
agree.
not going to argue my way through.
I think it's a question in my mind, okay? Why don't we continue every month or so to have the conversation of what we're putting in place? Because if we put it in place at, I think pre-K is important, but pre-K, K1 or K1, the result of that you will see in 2 years, right? Because that's the first year they test, and that's what comes out on School Digger. However, I think that you will also see over time a commitment, not that they haven't had one, but a commitment to ensuring that we're putting the resources we need to have our kids be as successful as possible. So what I want you all to do, because are we committed to that? Yeah, are you guys committed to that? Even the people in the community, you want our kids to do better? How about the board? You too? Yes, we will be better, Mr. Spalding.
I'm sure we
Yes.
will,
So
Brendan.
that's the deal. We're all working towards that.
All right, the school year that's about to begin
Yes.
has a dollar limit on it.
Oh, it does, and I will bring you that cash and
That you've got,
expenditure.
that lower drawer in your desk has got money in it?
No, the federal government COVID has money in it, and they tell us we have to use it for learning loss. And so we will focus our attention on those grades. We will, you come into all these interesting things, right? So what Patrice said and Rob said in their presentation is high-quality paraeducators in the classroom. Trained, thank you.
Trained paraeducators.
We currently, and this isn't just us, it became a statewide little party, have our paraeducators work, many of them, less than full-time so that we don't have to offer them a single-person insurance plan. Why is that? Yeah, why is that? Because it's cheaper. Well, we're not going to get high-quality trained paraeducators if we don't offer them full-time hours in, it's not even a family plan, in a single-person plan. So when we bring those numbers, we're going to include that, because we'll be more successful at getting high-quality people if we do that. So we'll have to take account of that on our end. But if the board's in it, if you're in it, if we're all in it, we're going to do it. Let's get it done. That was my vote in my soapbox.
Do you have enough money to do the grades that you listed?
Yes.
And to do everything that you have to do in order to change at least the first grade? Let's talk about building the house from the bottom up.
Yeah, I say, this is what I say. We will come with an actual plan that shows you that, because we're going to have to start hiring and that type of thing. And if I need people as individuals to hand over an extra $100, $200, you're good for it. 500? I can go up, we need more.
I will,
Is this an auction?
Do you, I know Mr. Beard's had his hand up. Did you have a question? We're not taking a vote, but if you have a question, I'd be willing to listen. Normally, we don't allow public comment if it's not a vote or an actionable item. No, only on actionable items.
Please go to the podium.
So, the elementary school is 211 out of 211. The middle school is 123 out of 125 or 26. It's one of those. So, all the way into 8th grade, our school's at the bottom. We've consistently been at the bottom. I've heard a lot of excuses about COVID. Sure, absolutely. But every school struggled with COVID in 2020. Those kids still took those tests, and still, those test results still came in. It's not a money thing. Yes, money is obviously a good thing, and the more money you had, it would be easier. But if you look at the numbers, for instance, Bluff School in Claremont is rated 160 out of 211. Claremont has the highest taxes in the state of New Hampshire. We have the 5th highest taxes. So obviously money is a big issue in Claremont, yet they're performing at a much higher level. The whole state as a whole is performing they're in the 50% range. But if you look at a school like Enfield, they're 10th in the state. Have we considered calling Enfield to see, hey, what are you guys doing up here so different? Because their school is passing at 94.34% in 21. Our school was at 3.91%. Those numbers are horrible and should be an embarrassment to this board, to this community. It's not our students. Our students are we're supposed to teach our students. It's you guys' job, it's the teacher's job to teach them. This isn't a fault of the students, this is a failure of the system that's not providing them the education that they obviously need. So we can debate the numbers, we can say, well, we don't think that's true, but clearly it is. We can talk about house issues. Well, they come from bad parents, the parents aren't in the case, and I know, trust me, I know a lot of the kids don't have the parents that a lot of other kids have great parents, but I'm pretty sure places like Manchester and Nashua, living there is a lot harder than Newport, New Hampshire, and their school is not rated at the bottom. This is a huge issue that I just don't feel like the 100% of the board is on point with this and think there actually is an issue here. I speak for a lot of people in the community. I could bring a lot of those people here if you need to hear that, but something needs to change, and I just don't feel like there's any plan here. There's a lot of pointing, there's a lot of make the kids feel good, and that's going to teach them how to read, but you have 17-year-olds that can't fill out job applications. You're failing them from kindergarten or up through. Thanks.
Just to respond to that, I will say that one of the schools you mentioned, and I won't say which one, is a targeted school of improvement. We are not. There are different indicators by which things are done. We are not listed as any of those that the state has deemed the most failing, as you reply. The fact of the matter is, yeah, we're not great, but we're not on that list. We're not getting extra funds from the state to help our kids that these other schools are. I serve on the statewide accountability task force. I know what goes into the metrics. And so to say that, it's using a small piece of information that's not accurate. You list the schools in Manchester, many of them are on that list. You list Enfield, I can almost guarantee you the reason it's not on the list is because their N size, which they count, does not fit for all of the categories that would make it on the list. The categories are English language learners, percent of special ed students, Socio-Economics, and there's one other that I'm not remembering. So I get it, and I get that you want to say that we're failing, but they work their butts off, and what do you do? Okay, so please don't do that. It's so unhelpful.
Well, part of the issue is that apparently you don't want to acknowledge there's an issue here. And that's the first thing you have to.
We did acknowledge there was an issue. We've been here for an hour acknowledging there's an issue. What part did you not hear where we said we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to do this? Read the book about how poverty affects our students and then come back with information about it. It's so frustrating when people degenerate our students, our staff, and our administrators. Do you think people love to come here? Do you think they're like, wow, I could come to Newport, I could make less money and get people telling us we're failing? I cannot tell you how frustrating that is to hear. So if you want to work together as a community, please come join us. But if you want to bring us down, that's not helpful.
I think we've reached a point in this conversation where we need to take this to another meeting. We have been talking about this for a very long time, and we have several other agenda items. And so at this point, I think we're going to move on from here, and it will be on another agenda for the
I will
next
make a
time.
motion to continue the 211, comma, excuse me, in quotes, conversation to the first issue on the next board meeting.
You said that was a motion? Okay.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. Comment?
I just want to know what the topic will be.
Yeah.
Do you want the financial, this is what it looks like, or are we going to have a general conversation? I mean, just so I know the direction you're looking.
For me, there's two parts here.
Yeah.
The first part is the financial.
Yeah.
Where we can get money to do what we want to do
Yep.
or need to do. And the second is the spreading it out. May I speak without your help? I'm capable of that, so will you please shut up?
Okay, all right, all right. Let's finish what this is.
So,
By spreading your efforts over too many grades, I'm afraid of that in this particular first year. When we come into the second year, where we had a budget, that we could add that money in and convince the community that it should be done, then we can do more. But in the first year, if we focus on K and 1, to me, that gives a better chance of success, and we can sell that success to the community.
I will bring you both. I will show you what they will both look like, if that works with the board.
No financial.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Because I've been told to shut up.
Okay, that's one abstention. Okay.
Maybe you'll learn
Croydon
from it.
tuition.
Okay, Croydon tuition.
All right.
You want me to answer this with you?
Yes.
Do you want to remind me?
I wrote them down.
Oh, okay. Give me 1 second to get that. Well, maybe. There it is.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Hubert's questions were, we'll start with the easy one, does Croydon have a contract?
Croydon has a contract with us that extends to 2023. There are different components in that contract. I gave each of you the contract. One component is they have to tell us the number of kids, and then they would have to pay for that number. The other component, though, is there's nothing aside from that number that says that their kids have to go here.
The revenue, how much revenue does that generate? First, well, how many students, Croydon
Okay.
students do we have?
So if we look at Croydon itself, there are 19 for this current year. The revenue roughly that generates, I'm doing the math together here, so, is about $306,000. So if you were to roughly cut it in half, you'd be talking about $153,000 loss of revenue and $153,000 of revenue. We currently have 35, 45, 50, 56 students from Goshen attending. And that brings us a little under $1 million in revenue. We have 3 students from Lemster attending and 10 students from Unity attending. The all-in revenue is $1,431,722. So if you were, some people had alluded to, if you were to say, well, okay, half the loaf is, I guess, the vernacular now, and everyone got half the loaf, you'd be down $700,000.
You also asked if there were consequences in the contract for not paying, correct? Yes.
I think we'd have to litigate it, because, yeah, there are, it says you have to pay.
Do you have a little?
When we did this contract, they had 30 days to pay, what, twice a year?
Yeah, you do it twice a year.
And if they don't pay in 30 days,
Then it's breach of
then
contract.
they're done, basically.
Right, but at that point, especially if you were talking the second one, you would have already had them here and had done that, so more than likely, I would anticipate, but it would be a board decision, you would then go and litigate for breach of contract or failure of payment or whatever it's gonna be called.
We've done this before with them, though. This is not the first rodeo here.
Correct.
And
I
this
was not here.
contract was supposed to actually have a monthly payment. I'm not sure why it doesn't at this point. But several years ago when I was on the board, they did not pay. They were far, far in arrears.
Yes.
And then they informed us that they had spent the money on other things and would have to hold a special meeting in order to get said funds. That was not the first time. They also asked us one year to provide lunches for them, which we had a special bus driver drive to them. They complained that they were cold quite often while they were being driven out there.
That was to the elementary kids?
Yeah,
At
and
their
then,
school.
yeah, so we were providing them out of our kitchen. They then didn't pay for those and said we needed to collect them from the parents individually when the deal had been with the school. So this is not the first go-around with
Yeah.
this, just so that you guys know history here.
Any other
Is
clearing
there
conversation?
anything else we want to say publicly? Right now?
Okay.
Did you have a question, Ms. Suda?
The discussion on litigation be discussed publicly or in private session?
Litigation is usually closed.
Non-public.
Advice of lawyer.
Okay. All right, then I will close that topic. Brings us to policy BEDH discussion, which is public comment. Thank you all that are good for you. Staying and coming. Okay. This is in regards to our public comment participation. Mr. Spalding?
Okay, I want to read from part of your policy so that we can set the tone for what we're about to do.
Which policy is this?
I will get to that.
Okay.
The opportunity to speak uninterrupted would be nice. The policy is BAAA. Limitations of policy. Neither the policies of the board nor the procedures of the administration are intended, nor shall they be construed to supersede or preempt any applicable laws, whether constitutional, statutory, regulation, or common in origin. Consequently, all board policies and administrative procedures shall be given both an interpretation and application which is lawful. The board shall have the final interpretation of its policies, and the administration shall have the final interpretation of its procedures. I make a motion that we take policy BDGDH and go back to it as it was approved on 5/5 of 2016. Without reading the whole thing, I will give the gist. The board desires citizens of the district to attend its sessions so that they may become better acquainted with the operation and programs. That's commendable. So you get an idea what that paragraph's going to say. In order to assure that persons who wish to appear before the board may be heard at the same time, conduct its meetings properly and efficiently. That is commendable also. That is up to the chair. The chair is exercising that option tonight. Number 1 of the policy is, at each board meeting, time will be set aside for public participation. I agree. Number 2, anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or as a member of the group, should inform the chairman or the superintendent of the desire to do so and of the topic to be discussed as early as possible, but it doesn't require. Number 3, any individual desiring to speak will be asked to give his or her name, then it says address. I would take out address. There is no need for a speaker to give his or her address. Residency? Yes. Continuing on, and the group, if any, that is represented. 4, the presentation should be as brief as possible. Written remarks are encouraged. The board may not be prepared to respond at the time. That was the policy before the policy that we have now, BEDH. It eliminates the 3-minute limit. It allows what we saw tonight, where a person could come up and speak to us of something while we were deliberating what we're doing. It is, in fact, the right thing to do. If you say to yourself, looking at the policy history, the policy before the new one was the one I just read you. It worked for years. And to discount what the selectmen have done for many years, allowing public participation, even during the meeting, on things that raise their ire. We saw that tonight with Tim. The restrictions that are there are not friendly to many people. And we talk about our socio-economics. All right, a person comes in who is concerned, doesn't speak eloquently, is nervous, upset, and we want to put that person in a 3-minute pocket? Where is the First Amendment when you actually say, okay, we want just the college-educated person to speak to us, we'll give him 1 minute to get his points across. Now, open it up, get rid of it. And my motion is to go back to what I just read, and I gave the date of it. And I believe all of us should have a copy of that. Is there anyone that doesn't have a copy?
We should all have a copy. I asked that everybody have a copy.
Excuse me?
Everybody should have a copy. Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second before discussion?
I'll second it for discussion
Yeah, for
only,
discussion.
Okay,
not as approval.
okay. Discussion. Who would like to start? Bill?
I'm open to changes in the policy the way it stands, because I do think it's a bit restrictive. But I'm not open to a reset all the way back to this. So, it's just my thoughts. I do believe our current policy is too restrictive, but I also believe that we have an obligation to move the meeting in as timely a manner as possible.
Rhonda?
policies evolve over time. We get RSAs, we get rules. Right now, there's a bill in Congress for a 3-minute rule with a 1-hour total limit in case you had 50 people in the yard. It's passed the first house, it's passed the second house, and it's likely to get signed in the next couple of weeks. This policy, the 3-minute part, is fairly standard, and it's not really unheard of. Boosting it to 4 minutes, I'd be fine with. Adding half an hour in there for a total number of people, I'd be fine with. Those things have to go back through policy committee. They don't get just done right here. They go through first read, they go through second read. Then they come back here as board members make some. Bert was previously directed to the policy committee to adjust this when he wanted this on the agenda and protested for a year, and he didn't go. So at any point, we can adjust any policy by putting forward what we like as adjustments, sending it to the policy committee, getting it checked against RSAs, sending it for first read, which is when it comes back to us to read it and say, hey, we like this, we don't like this, let's adjust this, sending it back for second read, and then finally adopting it. That's the general process before a policy is accepted. I have no problem with adjusting a few things. I do have a problem with removing everything because I don't think what happened tonight was actually functional. Winding our people up and getting out of control and these things when we're here to do a particular job, it's not helpful, and it's not healthy.
So I pulled other districts' policies under the same BEDH. It's the exact same policy. I pulled Lebanon, I pulled Leominster, I pulled Sunapee, I pulled Claremont, I pulled Kearsarge, I pulled Unity. Okay, those were the ones I pulled. I got tired. And we are all within the realm of those. I don't bring that up to say we shouldn't change. I would be open to certain changes. But certainly the 3-minute rule, Lebanon has 3 minutes, Sunapee has 4, some places have 5, and that's all fine. And they also have the 15-minute allotment. Some of them, they do a half hour. So I don't want people to assume that we have this restrictive policy and we're the only ones that have it. We have to operate this as a board meeting within those guidelines and to be able to get business done. And I think to speak to Mr. Kessler's comment earlier during public comment that this would be a way to engage with the community, I agree, but I have to say I don't know if adding minutes or lifting a restriction is going to necessarily bring community in. And I don't know if this is the way I want to engage with them all the time. I'd rather be in the schools doing it with them or at events. So I disagree that these are here to dissuade people from coming. I think they're here so that the board can conduct its business. And certainly people are able to reach out. People are certainly able to reach out to me. Not at a board meeting. So I am open to discussing about potentially making changes to send through to the policy committee. But taking it back to 2016, I'm less likely to do.
The select board has a completely different function anyway. You should be comparing apples to apples. They function differently, they direct differently to a different group of people. It's a completely different situation you should be comparing to school boards. Bert?
You need only look at nationally what's happening in education to understand that not letting the public have their say winds up being worse than allowing it. If you take Loudoun, Virginia, as a case in point, they finally wound up taking a building that could hold 200 people and put 18 chairs in it and had their officers at the door turning people away. First of all, that it was unconstitutional right from the get-go, because everyone has a right to speak about their education system. So no matter what you do, when you put a hurdle up, yes, you do eliminate people. And our hurdle has eliminated a lot of people. Now, to use the 50 people show up and say, then what do you do? Geez, from a chairman's standpoint, I think it's relatively easy. You say, is there somebody speaking for the group? Someone says yes. So that person goes to the podium. When that person has done all of what he needs to do, doesn't have a restriction, then the chair says, if there are other people in the audience who agree with what has been stated, could you raise your hand? Those that are timid and don't want to speak and agree will raise their hands. Those that don't. You eliminate then, by using the thought process and the control of the meeting, to allow the people to speak without putting up walls and obstacles for them to go around. So, that all being said, nothing at this meeting tonight happened wrong, and we didn't go by those rules. And this board, and what I read you earlier is very clear, and this is your own policy. The board shall have the final interpretation of its policies, and the administration shall have the final interpretation of its procedures. We are the one. We can delay this and send it to a committee. Looking at the policy that you have right now, it doesn't even meet constitutional muster. And I came prepared to do what I'm going to do right now, because I got a pretty good idea where the tree's going to fall, and it's not acceptable. So, as you say, you have got in the policy, well, it is here somewhere. I'll do it ad lib. In the policy, you've got profane. What is profane? So now, let's talk about constitutional law. It started with a fella in California with F the draft on the back of his jacket. He was convicted all the way up through California, and he appealed it to the U.S. Supreme Court. He and another party by the name of Gooding took their cases, and it went before the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court said, no way. And that being said, it was overturned, both of them. And the second one was a lady in Louisiana who, when police officers pulled her over, she called them every name in the book from beginning to end. But that wasn't the real one that comes to the crux of what we're talking about. It's a fellow by the name of Rosenfeld versus New Jersey. That case was, there it is right in front of me. That case was very simple. He stood up with 150 approximately people in the room. 40 or so were women, 30 were children, 2 police officers, and he called them MF 4 times. 4 times. In an school auditorium, he was a teacher, and he went to the podium, and that's what he did. He was convicted all the way up through New Jersey, and he appealed it to the U.S. Supreme Court. They did not even hear the case. They put it out with an order. And the order for Rosenfeld was 71-1044. It was vacated, which means, 1, he wasn't guilty, and 2, remanded for the state to change their law to comply with the Constitution of this country. So, tell me how you interpret obscene language in your regulation, when in fact the Supreme Court, the court of the land, has, in lots of cases, Lewis versus City of New Orleans, Brown versus Oklahoma, Rosenfeld, as I've mentioned, Cohen versus California, Gooding versus Wilson. It is wrong. It is vague, one, so it doesn't meet constitutional muster right there. And second of all, it intimidates people who want to speak freely. Now, I'll tell you right now, if I wasn't a board member, I'd be right up there and I'd use any word that I wanted to use. And I have in this room in the past. It has to stop. We, boards, are not gods. You do not control how people speak or what they say, unless it is fighting words, which is Kaplinski, which was a New Hampshire case that went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And fighting words are out. But that's okay. I lose on this one. I ain't going away. It's just stupid and unnecessary.
Yes, did you have something you'd like to say? We have to take a vote on this, so you would get 2 minutes at the podium. Yes, please.
Communication is the business I've been in for most of my career. Earlier tonight, I spoke about making assumptions. You've spoken about language, care in taking language. Policy BEDH, what the hell is it? What the hell is it? You speak to the public, you want the public to be included and to have a say, but you do not clarify what you're talking about. So, someone among you must know what BEDH you're discussing. I only understand it's a policy. Oh, thank you. Was that available up there?
That one's yours. Sure, you want another?
No, I only want one copy. I only read it once.
You never know.
Maybe I'll put it in my memoirs. I do want to suggest, if there is a legal way where someone like me who takes the time to be present at the meeting or who is Zooming can write in a logbook here, if we don't get a chance to speak our mind, no matter what shape our mind is in, if we don't get a chance to say what we came here and say, is it legal for there to be a logbook or a camera to speak into that will be part of the public record when that public record, those minutes, whatever, are approved, so that everyone has a copy of those remarks by people who didn't get a chance to say their thing? So that's up to you professionals to figure out if that's okay to do. It's up to you elected officials to figure that out. Yes.
You can write in an email at any time and ask it to be read into the record.
I know, and I can send a
Okay, so-
certified
so-
letter to each
but
of you.
I was answering, there is a way to do it, is what you're saying.
Did the public know that before you just said it on TV?
Many people have done it. I don't know if every single person watches all the time and would know, but many people have done it.
Well, perhaps in English class we can include letter writing in the form of emails.
It wouldn't be hurtful.
But please understand, there is room on this document to write BEDH out and whatever it means. Okay? There is room to put it on the agenda in a way that those of us who are readers would read it. Thank you.
I have it on my list of things to say. Acronyms.
So House Bill 1195 is the bill that would require that public comment is being put at the front of every meeting, that by law you would have to allow me a minimum of 3 minutes, not a maximum, and up to 1 hour. So obviously the state was aware of the tactics by some boards to put public comment last, and then they could end the meeting rather than to listen to the parents and then still get their business done. Our tax dollars pay for education, and these students and you as a board need to listen to our concerns and answer our questions. I guess I have to ask if you're on the board, why, if you don't want public feedback. If you're worried about long meetings, then maybe the school board isn't the place for you. You have a duty to listen and address the concerns of parents and taxpayers. The Board of Selectmen has no such policy. They listen to the residents' concerns and answer questions. Why do you feel like you don't need to answer our questions? At the end of the day, these are our children. It's time to do your job and fix our poor-performing school district. Thank you for your time.
Any other discussion before we vote? Okay.
Those letters mean nothing.
They mean nothing.
They
It
mean
is.
nothing.
Yeah.
The B, the B gives you the general area it's gonna be in, so B is school board stuff. G, for example, is personnel, F is finance, so if they start with that, but the rest means absolutely nothing.
It's good to know we're functioning with absolutely nothing.
If it helps, it's national.
Raise the tuition for everybody else, so they can be a part of absolutely nothing.
Just the letters.
Okay, so the motion that was seconded is to revert policy BEDH back to May of 2016. All those in favor?
Aye.
No. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
I'm abstaining because
Abstain.
I thought there was a discussion of sending it to policy to at least review and look through, or would that be a different motion?
To have a motion, are you asking to have a motion to make adjustments to go to policy committee?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to do it the right way, I mean, because I think it needs to be changed,
Yeah.
like, I need more time to just revert it.
So then that could be a separate
Okay.
motion.
Do we have training coming up soon?
We do,
April,
that's on.
I'm
yeah.
April 4th.
Yeah. Okay, and are you still going to abstain, Steve?
Yeah, yeah, 'cause I'm on.
Okay, all right, so that motion fails. Okay,
So then can I make a motion to move it to policy for adjustments? Because I think based on the public comment, we still need to adjust it.
yeah, can I just,
Oh.
Maura just wanted to ask a question, and I think it was about the last motion, so.
I have the motion, I have the second, the final vote, and those that voted no.
I voted no.
Rhonda?
Rhonda voted no. Bill, you voted no.
I voted no.
Steve abstained.
3-2?
3-1.
Or 2-3?
3-1-1.
No. Yeah, 3-1.
Yeah, 3-1-1. 3 noes,
Or
1 yes, 1
1-3-1.
abstention. Okay, you can make your motion.
So then I move that we send the policy to policy committee for review to make changes based on public comments and comments on the board tonight.
Second. Any discussion?
Do we know what changes you want to send? Or do you have a?
So do I need to say those right now?
Well,
If you have a list, I'll
you know
talk,
what you
I'll
can
talk
do?
to her.
You know what you can do? You can go to policy. You can go there and discuss it with them, exactly like we had suggested before.
Sorry, because I know you guys are, so, then the process would be, it would still come back, right? So let's say that you said, I want to have a 1 million minute limit.
Who's the policy committee? It's not someone in the school?
Right now, it's me.
Yeah.
And somebody else. That other person has yet to be fulfilled. So
that's when you
that's
were
my
looking
job.
at the committees,
Yeah.
right? The different committees, there's a policy, it's 2 members currently of the school board and me.
I'm supposed to assign committees, that's coming up at the next board meeting, are those committees. But I've previously held a policy committee. So, all right, did you have something, Paul?
Yeah, it's obvious the policy committee is right here, right now. So why do you kick the can down the road? I mean, you know, you can put yourself in a swamp that makes it really hard for you to move, and it's awful hard to get past the foolishness. So, that being said, the motion doesn't have a second,
I seconded it.
okay?
Okay. So all those in favor of this policy going back to the policy committee?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Me,
Abstained? Okay,
policy committee is right here, right now.
all right. That brings us to the support staff contract.
So the support staff contract, any changes to it were brought up last session. So I think it was like in February maybe? And the board heard, so for the support staff, it was really only two things. It was a 90 cents increase in their wage scale, along with a change in their language to say that if we were having a professional development day, they could not take a personal day, because we wanted them to get the training and support and that type of thing. The purpose of this was, so then the voters voted for the money piece because it was part of the budget. And the purpose is just to sign it. The way we've always done it has been the board chair signs it. Always is a wrong word. Any time that I've known it has been that way. And then the president of the NSS signs it. And that's all it was. It was really more like a formality from what my experience has been in the past.
Are we signed yet or no?
No, Jenna would have to sign it.
I will sign it. Okay. All right, so that brings us to the last item of public business, which is school board training dates. So our District Attorney Matt Upton is going to come in to provide our annual training. And so we usually do that on a Saturday. And so I'm feeling you guys out on if Saturdays would work, if there's another day that would work.
Saturday can work depending on the time.
Okay,
What time works for you?
I work 2 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Saturdays.
2 a.m.
So
So like
11
later in
a.m.
the,
So 11 a.m. I'm in Lebanon.
okay.
So I can be here by 11:45 if I don't eat.
Will you still be
You
awake?
want a nap?
We can bring food to them.
I've been up since 1 o'clock in the morning. I haven't napped yet.
Okay.
I was gonna nap today, and then I said, oh crap, I'm supposed to be looking at paperwork.
We can have snacks and
so-
food there,
We can
right?
provide-
So,
provide.
So,
not
so, yeah, no, I don't necessarily need a nap.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Steve, are Saturdays okay with you?
Nope, not with me. I will not be there.
Okay. Are Saturdays okay with you, Steve?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Depending on, I mean,
All
So
right.
my intention would be to reach out to Matt and say, I'll just pick 2 or 3 dates out in the future, not too far, but see if he can do that, if that's what the board wants.
not spring break.
Not spring break
Okay, that seems reasonable.
on either end.
Steve's gonna be partying and.
Okay.
what is that island down in Padre?
All right, so I think that will close our information and action and bring us to communications. Yes.
I meant what I said when Mr. Beard spoke, but I didn't say it in a way that normally would reflect who I am. And so I want to apologize publicly to Mr. Beard for doing that. I feel like public education is under assault, and you just happen to hit it at the right time or the wrong time. So I apologize.
Did lights just come
They did.
Yeah, they did.
I don't want to say that it had anything to do with what I just said, but,
Probably the ice outside, it's still ice inside.
is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, who would like to go first this evening? Patrice, you start us off?
Oh, I can show the website. I've done a lot of time these days, but I'm gonna talk about our website.
I keep going on to see if it's.
So, yes, we are working with our provider to finish up the last bits of some pieces. Oh,
Oh, true. Oh, do you want me to share it with you? So how would I do that? Or
so
no,
let's
I
have
can
someone
do it.
else go first.
Yeah,
And then I will log into the meeting and go that way.
I could do
The only thing I have is the career day. So yesterday, we did a career
Yeah,
day.
you know your
I want to
accountant?
thank the
Yeah.
community for coming in and sharing their expertise with our students. The day was awesome. The kids were highly engaged. They learned a lot. They were well behaved. It was a perfect day for school. You know, everything the way it went through, it was a very nice day for our students. So I just wanted to say thank you to the community who came in, the staff who arranged it, the students who like I said, it was a fantastic day. That's all I have.
Follow on that, Career Day, this was the first time we've done a day like this. We called it Career Day, but really it was a day that met the various needs of students 6 to 12. So for our 6th to 10th grade, the focus of the day was careers. And we were only able to do it because of the volunteers who came in to present to our students. So we thank the many businesses and individuals who took time, in most cases, a whole day to talk to 6th through 10th grade students. Our kids were able to rotate through up to 10 different presenters in the day. And so it was a really big deal for them. For our 11th grade students, they spent the day, a riveting day of SATs, and boy, did they love every moment of that. So we thank our students. We do constantly ask ourselves how to help them see the value and importance of the testing, because not all of our kids who take the SATs are college-bound, and so for them, they're confused. And we're trying to educate them that this is part of our standard, it's our standard state testing. So it actually contributes to things like School Digger. Anyhow, so we had that for our 11th grade. For our seniors, we decided to really give ourselves a challenge and build individual schedules for each senior in this building. So I don't know if you can wrap your brain around what that might have looked like, but it had a lot of moving parts. Kudos to our senior class who really took advantage of that day to meet their graduation requirements and maybe some gaps that they might have in community service. They worked on their digital portfolios that are due April 1st. And any other pieces that they might individually need. So they really took advantage of that day. We're grateful to the library who was willing to take on students for community service. The rec center worked with us throughout the day. We had staff willing to kind of shuttle some of our high schoolers around, so it really was a community effort. Could not have done it without our staff, and a special shout out to our college and career counselor, Hannah O'Connell. She was key in kind of orchestrating all of these pieces. She was followed closely by Nissa at the middle school, Nissa Ridley, Molly Smith, and Haley Sharp. And then we, again, could not have done it without, we had para-educators who were running presenters. They didn't actually run them, but showing them where our rooms were in our building, because it didn't occur to us, it's been so long since we've had the community in, people didn't know where things were. So that's a different experience for me, so it was nice to bring the community in. And I would like to echo what Patrice said at some of the lower levels. We had students who didn't know how to show somebody they're paying attention. So like basic eye contact. So these are kids who for 2 years have really been between home or school. And it didn't occur to us. So some of our presenters, we had to kind of talk to them at lunchtime, and they were surprised. We had students who didn't know how to, ask me a question as a business professional out in the world. They're used to just their teachers, their parents, their friends. So it's interesting how it's manifested, and it was just a fascinating thing. One of the things we did do that I'm pleased to just share some quick data on, we actually did a pre-survey to our students to ask them, have you set goals for after high school? do you have an action plan to reach those goals after high school? And then we asked those same two questions, among others, after our career day. And so just to share some of that data, and I don't even think I've shared it with Tom yet, but we asked the students, do you know what you want to do after high school? Before career day, 102 said yes. After career day, we had 222 who said yes. So out of, we actually had a different number who answered in the beginning and at the end, but just shy of that 300 mark. So this is 6 through 12 overall. We then asked students, did you have an action plan to reach those career goals? So before career day, we had 59 students who said yes. After career day, we had 154. So I'm very grateful to the presenters who came in, having never spoken to students in a school or classroom environment, who clearly gave our kids some actionable steps that they could follow after high school, regardless of whether or not they were in 6th grade or older. So I'm very pleased with that. The only other thing that I wanted to update the board and our broader community, you'll be hearing about, as we've moved through our pandemic, we're going to be returning to a bell schedule that was a pre-pandemic bell schedule at the high school. So you'll see us go back to a 4-block, 8-period modified block schedule, basically. We will not be bringing back our AB day. So I just wanted to give everyone kind of a heads up that it's nice to be returning to some, the multiple levels of normalcy. So, yes.
How many classes they can do a year?
So they could earn up to 8 credits.
And in the AB, they could earn?
The same amount, because it just rotated.
It just confused them because they went back and forth. all the
Right,
time.
so instead of semester and semester,
Just checking.
AB throughout the year, and it was confusing.
Yeah.
We heard a lot of feedback from our staff about that, so.
And I'll follow up. First, we've been trying to fill an automotive, just short-term sub, and then potentially a longer-term sub with someone qualified in automotive. And I just wanted to update the board that we're just very excited about the community interaction and assistance with that situation. And so we do think that we have someone who's really qualified, who might spend a couple weeks with us, and we just want to say thank you, because it really does take a community together to kind of help raise the kids, which I think is how we've talked a lot about education tonight. We want to give a shout out to FFA, who heads to UNH tomorrow, and they are so excited. They've been working really hard. There are floriculture competitions, and Ms. Stevens will be with them all day at UNH, and I'll let you know how they do. And then because student leadership, the teachers really have promoted it, we've got FBLA going on the 31st of March to Manchester or Concord, and HOSA just got back from their competition, so the health science, and they had ratings of 4th place, 5th place, and a 1st place finish, even though it's the first time they've been for many of these students, and we haven't really had a strong HOSA in a number of years. So we're really proud of the students. They competed against some big schools, and it's not like division, so you're not able to like take your smaller schools and compete just against them. So that's exciting. Let me just add that we are looking at an economic coordinator position with the town, which is a 50-50 split between the town and the school. And we're in a second interview round with a candidate who's going to be an upcoming graduate of UNH. We'll see if he makes the cut, but it's just really great to work with the town to potentially help students with work-based learning, internships, and things like that. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that even though in the 11th hour there are a couple of things I would like to amend, which you'll see as you read this, but this is the accounting update. And it's interesting because I got data from the survey from Hannah earlier, which is the numbers are much lower than that survey. So I don't know if it's the same survey, because you'll notice that there are 29 student respondents in this, and those numbers are 100 and higher. So I need to clarify on that. But just to give the board an update on accounting, first I want to thank the board and Bert for the interest in expanding opportunities for students. I think that is the number one thing. The more opportunities to hit more interest areas for students, the more likely you are to have them passionate about something and moving their way forward. So I have consulted other directors, I've looked at state data. As we know, Claremont did run an accounting program, and that they have since closed that. However, the business SIP code, which I've explained in there, which is like an instructional code that the state uses, they are basically pooling all of the pieces, finance, entrepreneurship, accounting, personal finance, all those pieces, marketing, into the business SIP code. So because we have the business program, there are some things that we could consider. We could consider a third-year tier where you go through your business program and then specialize, which some schools are doing. With only one business teacher, that brings with it potentially some financial obligation if you were to bring on an additional teacher. You could go the high school route of adding an elective, again, depending on the math teacher schedules and other pieces to those, it depends whether you would need to add staff. And I think that's where the financial component comes in. I did, on the back side of this page, just note that for full CTE programs, so if accounting was still a full CTE program and it didn't go under business, the process for that, so whether you want to start a teacher program to support the elementary school by growing our own teachers, or you want to do drone aviation or whatever your goals might be, essentially you look at the local demand for industry and how many jobs are available. Then you put together an advisory board like we have for all our programs to say we would love employees in this area, we desperately need them. Then with that advisory review and promotion, you basically apply to the DOE to start a program, and they look at all of the information that they've asked for, and then they make a recommendation to add that to your set of programs. And what that means is that Perkins funding can be applied to those. So we get $44,000 a year in Perkins funding, and you can then, if you're approved by the state for a program, you can apply that funding toward that. And that's one of the benefits to having an official CTE program. And that final approval comes from the DOE so long as you don't have competitive programs. So if Claremont didn't reopen theirs, you'd have an opportunity to say, we'd like to add that. But again, for us right now, the way the state's looking at it, it's relatively a moot point from a program standpoint because it's wrapped into business. Because we don't have a strand for accounting, you could do that in a third year, as I said, or through an elective. So I hope this helps answer some questions, but we're also happy to go back to the drawing board or to provide more detail, and I wondered if the board might have any questions on that.
So all you would need is to advance it a little by realistically adding an accounting base for a third year, and you're good to go.
Yeah, if you wanted to do it that way, the third year strand is something that we're looking to do work-based learning in. You know, you have weld students who might take welding 1 and 2 and still not have a strand for their senior year. It's a gap. But of course, we want to have our teachers teaching 9th grade too and front load. So by teaching the younger, you know, if you take your freshmen and you give them lots of opportunity, then you have your level 1s and 2s, et cetera, and you have some electives thrown in. You don't necessarily have the teacher bandwidth within the contract to add something like accounting without taking something else away. So again, it's just thoughtful decision-making. Again, any opportunities for students are great.
Just for clarification, would you need DOE approval just for the third tier, or if that's, if
No,
it's
what
a
we would
separate program?
basically do is, right, it would just be a decision to look at staffing, right? Decide if there's a financial impact, decide if there's funding if you did have a financial impact, and then you have to also determine whether our business teacher, feels qualified to do a full accounting strand. We right now focus on marketing and general business. So you have to look at some of those things and whether it's, where's the best fit for it, and then you run it as, you do need to probably get your school counselors involved so that you can determine really what is the need for that incoming year. So let's say the demand is maybe your 8th graders are saying, I really am interested in this, there's a lot of math interest in things. Then you could get ready for that versus if you had a group that said, oh, I'm not interested in it. That could just be a 1-year non-interest, and you might have interest in other groups or grades. So I think just some other pieces to look at if that's the direction you want to go.
Every other year with enough.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yep,
might be the
they
way
do
to go
things like
about
that
it,
all the
because it would
time.
save a little money.
We've done
Bundle
that.
them when you had enough, and
Yeah, exactly. Some schools do that.
Trees? All right, so,
My most exciting news. Well, no, you don't have to give me anything. So before I get to the really exciting stuff with the website, I just want to do some elementary updates. Trimester 2 has been completed, it is done. We have got our grades in and our cover letters written. We'll be sending out report cards tomorrow. So look for those in email. If you did not want it in email and you would like a hard copy, we ask you just contact us in the office. That is not a problem. We can send it home with your student or in the backpack or in the mail, however you would like that. We are in the middle of our Blast Off to Reading March Reading Challenge. We have about 35,000 total minutes logged. We have some very excited kids. We have a cart with bookmarks and tokens and stickers for each 100 minutes that they read, and it's a big deal. And we run around to the classrooms at the end of every Friday, like kind of crazy people. And but the kids are loving it. They're loving going down to the book vending machine. We just got a whole bunch of new books in to put in, so that's tomorrow morning's plan.
How do we get one?
How do you get one? You want a vending machine? I'll work on it. I know a person. I know someone.
Would yours like dispense tools and stuff?
Oh, we could have tools, some automotive pieces. Yeah. So the other really big exciting thing is that we received a grant to provide a Nature's Classroom field trip to all of our 5th grade students. So 5th grade students are welcome to attend and are invited to attend Nature's Classroom the first week of May. We did our parent and student meetings last week, went over kind of what Nature's Classroom is, where it is, and all the finer details of, what do we serve for food. The kids wanted to know how many stuffed animals they could take. I mean, there were some really interesting questions it was really exciting. We have sent out sign-up stuffs to families. We've heard from just over half of the families so far that have signed up. So that does close tomorrow. So we will be hoping to get the rest of the people on board tomorrow, and if not, maybe doing some reaching out. The other piece, did I talk about the field trip? Or have we been here since then? 4th grade? No. Okay, so 4th grade went on a field trip. Sorry, it's been a long couple weeks. 4th grade went on a field trip last week to the State House and the Crystal McAuliffe Museum. They were the first students to see the House and the Senate in session in over 2 years. It was awesome. They did so great. They were super quiet. They were very into it. And they were getting quizzed by the guide, and they knew all the answers. They got to pretend to be governor. They got to sit in a chair, make some orders. It was very fantastic. Their biggest question, they wanted to know how they changed the light bulbs because they're so high in the ceiling. They wanted to know if there was a really big ladder. And then they wanted to know how much the people, which included them, they said, spent on the carpet because the carpet looked fancy. So, these are people, they are fiscally responsible, and they wanted some better light bulbs and carpets, and I was all right with it. So a huge shout out to the 4th grade teachers and the team. That was a big accomplishment. The kids had a lot of fun, and we had some good conversations and some good learning there. That's all I've got for the elementary school, so now I will show you what you really want, which now I gotta find the Zoom to figure out where it went to. There it is. So share screen. There we go. All right, so you'll see here, this is a preview of our new website that we are working on building right now. Should be launching soon, I'm hoping the next day or so. We're just working with our provider to finish up some things on the backside and get it switched over. So this is the district site. You'll see there's a nice scrolling pictures at the top of the different buildings. We've got a different setup here, so there's some news pieces so that it's kind of featured here with different stuff going on. There's an app that comes with the website that will provide a live feed and is very parent and user friendly that we're excited to push out. You'll notice that the events are kind of listed across the bottom. We've changed it a little bit so that the district page shows all of the events for the district and all of the buildings in one spot, and the schools only show what's going on in their building so that it kind of helps out with families. So you'll see here, just in this week, we have our school board meeting, we have Nature's Classroom, but we also have the Coffee House concert and the steampunk. So it's pulling from each of the buildings and showing us there. We have a little piece here about, who we are. So some of the things we chose to highlight in this section was you know, the CTE renovation. We think people who maybe are looking at moving here or maybe are looking at applying here, it would be important for them to know these things. So we've got the CTE renovation, number of employees, our focus on career and college readiness with our 3 graduation pathways, and then we have about 900 students in the district. There's also a feature we can put in different functions down here. So you can go to these program informations, you can click on the budget, and it will bring you to all of your budget documents. And then at the bottom, we see Brendan, Ed, and my smiling faces with the spotlights. Each district or each page has different kind of spotlights on it. If you take a look, I can show you. I like what the middle school did. The middle school has the same thing. Their pictures scroll through their specific events. Same features that we saw on that first district-wide page. They have their programs down here. And then their spotlight was their Students of the Month. So I thought that was really cool. They had their students. There's 4. They went all the way back to September.
Yep.
So I didn't know you could do that. That is awesome.
Yep. All
right. So this is just a little preview of, what the new website's going to look like, how it's laid out, and I know I'm speaking for everyone when I say this is much easier to use, easier to put things on it, which will, I think, make it easier for us to update. You'll also notice that when you hit menu, it expands to this nice, beautiful page, and then all of these pieces up here align with the app in the different sections, so you can click on dining. Let's see if this really works, because it's supposed to. All right, there we go. And then it brings us right to our dining menu. And so all of those nice features, less clicking, more directly to where we want to go. Any questions about the website?
I was just curious, when you hover over the kids at the bottom, a black bar around the outside.
It just moves a little bit.
Yeah, is there a reason?
No, it's just the way
Probably
it's
to catch your
the
eye.
template.
It's different.
Yeah, when we were first creating it, I think it was Terry Scott, she asked, how do I get the black bar there, and do I have to make a move? I'm like, no, it's just the piece, like, it's just built in as their element. But I think it is to catch your eye, because you'll notice, like, these ones pop up, and I think it's the news ones, they get bigger when you put over it, so maybe so that you know it's interactive.
You said there's an app, so does that allow coaches to send out messages to the team?
I believe so, so that was part of the communication side of this, yep.
It's called Thrill Share, and I think when you download the app, you can pick
Yeah,
the things that you want to receive, so.
Yep.
So I admit, I've been kind of out of touch with the school for the past couple of years, but what happened to the hot button on the website?
Yeah, the board made a decision to remove it. I think the reasoning was to kind of force the chain of command. So
And
that
everyone's emails are there, they can click on the emails. And
there's a
send
notification.
We made, so there's, let's see if I can go and read this.
Wasn't Linda's email
Yeah, so that was,
use compromised on the hot button?
yes,
Could be,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, now I remember
A
that.
previous board member's email was compromised, so it looked like the
Oh,
emails
right,
So
right.
you
coming
can-
Oh,
from
because you could
her.
create whatever email you wanted, so
Yeah.
they were like
So
sending them from the
anything, it
board
was
chair.
From the board chair,
it was
yeah.
anonymous, and they were sending them all over. So instead, there's links to everybody's email.
So here, and you can search by department, so if you select district office, you'll get just those who work in the district office,
Okay.
if I did it correctly. The high school, and then it's right here for you to click on.
I was just curious,
It looks great.
It does.
I think-
Excited to interact with it.
Yeah, no,
But-
it's been really good. I think that, people are really excited to see what they can put on it and what they can do with it.
It's a huge advantage.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't show it.
Yeah,
Jennifer, do you have great pictures?
The beauty is that it's much easier for people to, on the backside to manage.
Yeah.
So we should be able to keep up better with like better pictures, events, more current, that type of thing, so. And the people that we use as our group, you know, Apogee it's called, are very responsive, at least at the moment.
No, they are, they are.
They changed our tiger from looking sad to looking,
Okay, it didn't look sad, it looked, oh.
Tired.
The tiger's not on there, so
They're
that's
still
what, they're
working
working
on
on
the
that,
ears.
putting that in there.
I'm just,
It needed more pointy ears because it wasn't scientifically accurate according to
Per
our
the science
science
teacher.
principal over here. So we had to send it back again. But it was better.
I felt heard.
You felt heard.
every year we're gonna age it though, and so at a certain point you gotta go back.
All right, that's great. All right. Brendan?
I do, did we get through the others?
Yep.
Because I do want to just say one other thing, which is that I sent to all of you the letter from Jennifer. She called it the appreciation letter, but I'd say right back at you. Where she noted that she's getting done at the end of June too. She worked so hard and diligently to help promote and deliver door to door and all of that to get the bond through. And it's time for her to go home with her family. As many of you know, but not all of you probably, she lives 2 hours away. That's what I say. It might even be 4, because it's north of the Notch. So it's somewhere up there. And we've been fortunate to have her here. Same with Ed, you know. It's fortunate to have them as part of our team. And we thank them, and we thank Jennifer. And I will stop because I see you, Jennifer. I'm looking in your eye, and I think if I keep going, I'm sending you over the edge.
Rob already did.
Oh, Rob already did? Okay. But we're very thankful for Jennifer. On the other side of that, and oddly enough, Jennifer, I had thought a little bit, but Jennifer came up with this idea too. We're going to have Mr. Perry, Eric Perry, work as the interim CTE director for this upcoming year. He has done a fabulous job with our health science department, I guess I'd call it, program, is interested in going into an administrative role, and this will give him that opportunity to try it. He has experience running companies, that type of thing too, so, and he has the support of the staff, the CTE staff, I think the parents and the kids too, so I feel fortunate about that. As an aside, we did post for the BA position. We have gotten some interest. If there is a particular member of the board that would like to serve on that committee, it's going to be a fairly limited committee. You know, there'll be maybe a board person if someone wants to, some administrators, and then the business office, and then me, because that's really the people that interact with the BA mostly. So just let your board chair know, and she could send it along to me. So I don't know if Ed has something he wants to say. Do you want to say anything, Ed? No, okay. That's all I wanted to share, but I see Shannon now says, whoa, wait, what about me?
Well, I just wanted to say that, you know, when we're working in a building with 3 schools,
Yes.
we have a team right here working towards the common goal of our students and the needs of our students and supporting our staff. And I want to thank Jennifer for her time and effort she's put in. I think I know she brought a skill set that we didn't have, and it was key. So I want to thank you for that and wish you best of luck in your next chapter, because I know you will not stop moving. It's just not your style.
Hey, I know, we have an agreement, right? You're not like going.
Yeah, and as far as, again, looking ahead to our students, I think that her recommendation with Eric Perry, having worked with him as an educator, working with our kids, I think that his knowledge and experience as far as the renovation and what we've gone through in that capacity, as well as his vision for what education is and can be, I look forward to him continuing in a different way with the team. And so I think that if ever we had a leader who was really looking ahead beyond her impact, or the legacy of her impact, I think that that was very, extremely thoughtful of our kids and our staff. And so I just want to thank you.
Consistency is really important.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what everyone's done to kind of help make this a transition, because I love my job and I'm sorry to leave. It's far and it's the right thing, but I really, I like to think that the students will have a consistent person that cares about them, and we will keep a very qualified person in the district, because people understand how important it is not to just start over. So, yeah, thank you.
And I'd also want to add, our assistant principal, Sean Robinson, has let us know that he's not going to be returning next year. So I think he's also looking for some different chapter in his life, and enjoyed working with him, and will continue to work with him to the end of the year, but just so that's out there for people.
This wasn't what I was going to request, but there will be on the next board meeting some resignations. We have a middle school, we have some others. What I was going to request, though, is on the other side of things, and it's whatever the board would want to do. I was hoping to be able to bring a new hire to you tonight. It was for the Director of Student Services position, but I haven't finalized that yet with the person. Didn't hear from them during the day today. So I don't know if the board is comfortable with what I've done in the summer, which is I send you all the stuff. Well, I send you the resume and that type of stuff. And then as long as I don't hear back like, oh my goodness, I know that person and that person was whatever, then I continue the process, because otherwise I have to wait 3 weeks. And as I said uneloquently earlier, it's not like we're the highest paying or the this and that, and so sometimes we lose people because we wait too long. So I don't know if that's something the board is comfortable with.
I'd make that motion that we allow us to receive the paperwork and have Dr. Minahan make that decision prior to a board vote.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We all agree.
Okay, so I believe that draws the public portion of our meeting to a close. We'll be entering into a non-public under 91A32K. I'm sorry, I don't have that title with me. I have the different bag.
Oh, okay. The negotiation of the tuition agreement.
Okay,
You want me, you want it verbatim?
That would be awesome,
that would be
yes.
great, thank you.
Consideration by a school board of entering into a student or pupil tuition contract authorized by RSA 194 or RSA 195-8, which, if discussed in public, would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general public. The school district, that is, considering the contract interests, including any meeting between the school boards or committees thereof involved in the negotiations.
Thank you, Bert. Okay, I need a roll call vote to go into non-public. Rhonda?
Roger Callan King, aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Steve?
Steve Moore?
Bert?
Yes.
And Janet Darling, aye. I do not believe we're making a vote, but if we do make a vote, we will come back out into public session. So, okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.